Chapter 30, 170. Divine Emperors, someone exclaimed. The Divine Emperor of the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe had made his move. W, 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 Ranweena. Boom, boom. The entire area was in an uproar as the Divine Emperors engaged in a fierce battle. However, the Divine Emperors brought by Blue Maple were at a disadvantage as the Divine Emperors of the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe outnumbered them. Blue Maple had a total of 3 Divine Emperors on his side. One of the Divine Emperors had been assisting in the fight against the ghosts earlier, and now he had also rushed over to fight the Divine Emperor of the Dark Ape Battle Clan. 3 Divine Emperors. Interesting. Let me play with you. Yuan Fei had not made a move until now. Now that he had said that, he took a step forward and rushed out. He originally looked very old, but at this moment his body rapidly expanded, turning into a giant ape that was more than 10 meters tall. His muscles were solid, and he looked extraordinarily mighty. Boom! He did not even take out his iron rod. Instead, he threw a punch. The void exploded as the terrifying fist energy blasted towards one of the Divine Emperors. The Divine Emperor's face changed drastically. His weapon was an ordinary battle axe. He swung the axe at Yuan Fei. Yuan Fei's fist landed on the battle axe, causing it to vibrate violently. The Divine Emperor's body shook violently as he spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Let's go. The Dark Ape Fighting Tribe is too strong, the injured Sir God roared. No, we must take the idol away. Blue Maple roared. He was extremely unwilling to retreat now. He was so close to breaking the 4 chains when the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe suddenly appeared. He was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. Kill! Yuan Fei roared and charged towards another Divine Emperor. This was the Divine Emperor of the Lan family. He was very powerful. He slashed at Yuan Fei with his sword, but Yuan Fei smashed the Divine Emperor's sword with a punch. The Divine Emperor spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. The Dark Ape Fighting Tribe is too strong. Master, let's go. The Divine Emperor of the Lan family shouted as he used his divine power to carry Blue Maple away. Damn it! Blue Maple roared in his heart. He was so furious that he wanted to go crazy. The primordial idol was almost in his hands, but it flew away just like that. Retreat! 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 The people that Blue Maple had brought with him all retreated and charged into the distance. Stop chasing! Yuan Fei stopped everyone. In fact, they had the strength to keep Blue Maple and the others here. However, they had their own concerns. They were afraid that killing Blue Maple and the others would attract more powerful cultivators, which would be detrimental to the Dark Ape Battle Tribe. In the blink of an eye, Blue Maple and the others all left, disappearing into the horizon. Lu Ming, on the other hand, came to the bottom of the statue and examined it carefully. Senior Yuan Fei, why is this statue chained? Is there some kind of terrifying existence sealed inside? Lu Ming asked. No, the chains are only used to stabilize the body. It's just a form of protection. There's nothing terrifying in this statue. Yuan Fei's body shrunk again, turning back into an old hell ape. Then can I take this statue away? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. If the battle ancestor wants to take it away, of course. Once we break the last chain, the battle ancestor can take it away. Yuan Fei said. After that, the Dark Ape Battle Tribe members began to attack the last chain. The last chain was already on the verge of breaking. It didn't take them much effort to break it. After the last chain was broken, there wasn't the slightest abnormality. Lu Ming was relieved. Then, with a thought, the Jingyu painting in his mind flew out. He planned to put the statue into the Jingyu painting. The aura of the battle ancestor, Yuan Fei, and the other Dark Ape Battle Tribe members were excited when they sensed the aura of Jingyu from the painting. They respected Lu Ming even more. Jingyu's death was extremely long for Lu Ming. It was measured in hundreds of millions of years. However, it wasn't too long for a divine king. It wasn't even a stellar year. A divine king could live for 5 stellar years at most. A divine lord could live even longer. Therefore, many high-tier divine kings and divine lords of the Dark Ape Battle Tribe had seen Jingyu before. Naturally, they could sense the aura of Jingyu from the painting. The Jingyu painting scroll flew out and expanded rapidly, enveloping the primordial deity statue. With a single sweep, the primordial deity statue was sucked into the scroll and disappeared. I'll keep it for future research, Lu Ming thought to himself. Then Lu Ming, Yuan Fei, and the others left the divine statue mountain and returned to the Dark Ape Battle Tribe's territory. In the following days, Lu Ming cultivated in peace and waited for the 18 levels of hell to open. Blue Maple and the others appeared at the entrance of the Ghost region. Damn, the Dark Ape Battle Tribe. I'm going to destroy them. Let's go. Send a message to Father and ask him to send some elites. I'm going to destroy the Dark Ape Battle Tribe. Blue Maple shouted hysterically. His eyes were red and he was in a state of madness. Young master, you can't. A divine lord from the Lawn family said. Why not? Blue Maple shouted. Young master, legend has it that the Dark Ape Battle Tribe is extremely powerful. Moreover, they're holed up in the Ghost region and have the advantage of terrain. It will be difficult to destroy them. Even our Lawn family would have to mobilize a lot of forces to destroy the Dark Ape Battle Tribe. But if we do that, the strength of our Lawn family will be severely depleted and we will be coveted by other forces. The Patriarch will definitely not agree to this. The Divine Lord from the Lawn family said. Blue Maple calmed down after hearing that. He was right. The Lawn family couldn't send a large number of elites to the Ghost region to destroy the Dark Ape Battle Tribe just because of a primordial statue. If Blue Maple really proposed that, the Patriarch of the Lawn family would think that he hadn't thought things through and look down on him. One had to know that the competition in the Lawn family was very fierce. Many people wanted to pull him down and replace him. However, I can't just give up on the primordial statue. I can only borrow more people from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King to take a look at the primordial statue. I hope it's still there. Blue Maple sighed in his heart. He then left the Ghost region to borrow more people from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King. When he returned to the primordial statue mountain, he found that the primordial statue was gone. Damn, the Dark Ape Battle Tribe! Blue Maple roared. He thought that the primordial statue had been taken away by the Dark Ape Battle Tribe. He didn't dare to attack the Dark Ape Battle Tribe and could only leave the Ghost region obediently. The 9 Extinction Heavenly King sent experts to reseal the entrance of the Ghost region. After Lu Ming returned to the Dark Ape Battle Tribe, he suddenly thought of a problem that made Lu Ming anxious. If Blue Maple left the Ghost region and the 9 Extinction Heavenly King resealed the entrance, how would he get out? Would he have to stay in the Ghost domain and accompany the Dark Ape Battle Tribe from now on? Lu Ming couldn't accept this. His family and friends were all outside. If they didn't see Lu Ming for a long time, they would be worried. Moreover, he still had to reverse the verdict for Jingyu. There were less than 180 years before the Great Void Imperial family's holy courtyard was opened. He couldn't miss it. Chapter 30:171. Therefore, he hurriedly sought out the tribe leader of the Dark Ape Battle Tribe, Yuan Huan, and told him about his concerns. WW, Combat Ancestor, you don't have to worry. There's actually another exit in the Ghost's domain. Those outside don't know about it. Yuan Huan smiled. There's another exit? Upon hearing that, Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. That's right. The Taishu dynasty thought that they had sealed the exit of the Ghost's domain. They don't know that there's another exit. We can leave any time we want. Yuan Huan said. The main reason we didn't leave is because Combat Ancestor Jingyu has fallen. We have no one to protect us. We've been hiding in the Ghost's domain all these years, waiting for combat ancestor Jingyu's successor to appear. Also, do you know why Yuan Song and the others want to kill you? Yuan Huan continued. Why? Lu Ming asked instinctively. He was also very curious about this. Yuan Song and the others obviously supported Lu Ming and respected him as the combat ancestor. However, Yuan Song and the others wanted to kill Lu Ming. Ever since combat ancestor Jingyu fell, the Dark Ape Battle Tribe has been hiding in the Ghost's domain. After so many years, some people have changed their minds. Some people think that the Dark Ape Battle Tribe can't stay in the Ghost's domain forever. They want to take the initiative to fight their way out and occupy a territory for themselves. These people are led by Yuan Song. Actually, they don't mean any harm. They just think that even someone as powerful as Jingyu has fallen, forcing the Dark Ape Battle Tribe to hide in the Ghost's domain. As for you, you're even weaker. What can you do? They might as well kill you and have freedom from then on. Yuan Huan explained. Lu Ming nodded silently. It was normal for Yuan Song and the others to have such thoughts. However, as long as you can pass the 9th level of the 18 levels of hell and prove your talent and ability to lead the Dark Ape Battle Tribe to glory, Yuan Song and the others will listen to you. Yuan Huan said. Thank you, Patriarch. Lu Ming understands. Lu Ming cupped his fists and thanked Yuan Huan before leaving. Since there was another entrance to the Ghost Realm, there was no need for him to be in a hurry. He would stay here and subdue the Dark Ape Battle Tribe first. Time flew by. Before long, it was time for the 18 Hells to open. Yuan Huan, Yuan Song, Lu Ming, and a large number of Nether Ape Battle Race experts gathered in a flat area. This place was the rear of the Dark Ape Battle Tribe's territory. Open the 18 levels of hell, Yuan Huan said. Immediately, the Dark Ape Battle Clan members stepped forward. Open. A total of 9 warriors of the Dark Ape Battle Clan shouted. Their bodies were covered with a dazzling black light. Then, they slammed their palms heavily on the ground. Rumble. The ground actually cracked open, and a pitch-black crack appeared. Dense ghost chi seeped out of the crack. Battle Progenitor. The 18 levels of hell have been opened. Every level of hell is filled with countless ghosts, and each level has a king. You can only pass if you kill the king of each level. Then, the entrance to the next level will appear. If you don't kill the king of each level of hell, the entrance to the next level won't appear. Yuan Huan explained. How much time do I have? Lu Ming asked. There is no time limit. As long as you can pass the 9 levels of hell, you can spend as much time as you want. Yuan Song said as he walked over. I can spend as much time as I want? Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. This was beyond his expectations. He thought that there would be a time limit. Because there is no fixed time limit for each level of hell. It is normal for some to spend thousands of years to pass one level. It is normal for people to spend tens of thousands of years to pass all 9 levels of hell. Therefore, there is no time limit. No matter how long you spend, your ultimate goal is to pass the 9 levels of hell. However, no matter how long it takes, we will wait. Yuan Song said with a cold expression. Tens of thousands of years? Lu Ming muttered. It seemed like it would not be easy to pass the 9 levels of hell. Moreover, he did not have that much time to waste here. He had to pass the 9 levels of hell within 180 years. He still had to participate in the Great Void Imperial Academy's examination. Battle Ancestor, take this jade talisman. At this moment, Yuan Huan took out a jade talisman and handed it to Lu Ming. This is... Lu Ming took it and was a little surprised. The 18 levels of hell are very special. The lower you go, the stronger you will be. If you encounter any danger and you are no match for them, you can crush this jade talisman and it will send you out. At the same time, you can inject a strand of your aura into the jade talisman. We will know if you are alive or dead, Yuan Huan said. Lu Ming understood. This jade talisman could save his life at a critical moment. At the same time, it could also detect whether he was alive or dead. If he died in there, Yuan Huan, Yuan Song, and the others would not have to wait. Otherwise, if Lu Ming died in there, wouldn't they have to wait here for nothing? Lu Ming took the jade talisman and injected a strand of his aura into it. Battle Ancestor, remember, you can only pass if you kill the king of each level. Yuan Huan reminded again. Okay, Lu Ming nodded. He then took a step forward and dashed into the fissure. Hoo! As soon as he rushed into the crack, the ghostly aura was like a gale blowing against Lu Ming's face. Lu Ming covered his body with a layer of divine power and quickly flew down. Not long after, Lu Ming seemed to have passed through a thin film and arrived in a huge underground world. When Lu Ming arrived in this world, the crack on the outside closed up and disappeared. On the ground, a stone tower appeared. This stone tower was only as tall as a person and had a total of 18 levels. At this moment, the top level was shining brightly. This stone tower represented the 18 levels of hell. Whichever level one was on, that level would light up. They had seen it from the outside and roughly knew the situation. Yuan Huan and the others sat cross-legged in the air and waited quietly. They had lived for countless years. Waiting for tens of thousands of years was as simple as eating and drinking to them. They had plenty of patience. Is this the first level of the 18 levels of hell? Lu Ming stood in the air and looked around. Between heaven and earth, everything was gray and boundless. It gave off a depressing feeling and lacked vitality. Every level has a ghost king. Where is the ghost king? Looks like I have to find it myself. Lu Ming pondered, then randomly chose a direction and rushed forward. He did not have enough time. He only had 180 years at most. He could not afford to waste any time. Hoo! Lu Ming had not flown far when there were gusts of sinister wind blowing between heaven and earth. Following that, there were shrill screams. Give me your life. A scream was heard. Then, a black shadow pounced at Lu Ming with shocking speed. Chapter 3172. A black shadow pounced on Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. Ana. Calm, however, Lu Ming was prepared for it. He dodged the black shadow's attack in a flash and quickly retreated a distance. He then looked at the black shadow and saw its appearance. It was a ferocious-looking ghost. Its eyes were wide open as it stared at Lu Ming. Its mouth was wide open with greed. Eat. I want to eat. Give me your life. The ghost screamed and pounced on Lu Ming. This is the hungry ghost. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. During his time in the Nether Ape Battle Tribe, he had done some homework and had some understanding of the ghosts in the Ghastly region. The ghost in front of him was the legendary Hungry Ghost. This hungry ghost was only an 8th level heavenly god. It was not worth mentioning to Lu Ming. Lu Ming threw a punch. His fist energy penetrated and killed the hungry ghost, turning it into dust. Kill! Give me your life. Just as Lu Ming killed the hungry ghoul, there were sounds of killing coming from all directions. There were at least dozens of hungry ghouls pouncing on Lu Ming. Divine Sun Force. Lu Ming controlled the Divine Sun Force, and a layer of flames appeared on the surface of his body. His entire body shone like the sun, shining brightly. These ghosts were most afraid of the extreme Yang Force, such as Saint Force, Flame Force, and Lightning Force. These ghosts were the nemesis of these ghosts. The dozens of hungry ghosts were enveloped by the light on Lu Ming's body. They melted quickly, like ice cubes meeting fire. In the blink of an eye, all of them were turned into black smoke and dissipated. After killing these ghosts, Lu Ming's figure flashed, and he left this place to look for the hungry Ghost King on the 1st level of hell. However, after a few hours, Lu Ming searched a large area and killed a large number of hungry ghosts. He still could not find the hungry Ghost King. The main reason was that the 1st layer of hell was too big. It was like a small world. It was easier said than done to find a ghost king. Lu Ming patiently continued his search. 2 days later, Lu Ming arrived in front of a valley. In the valley, ghostly qi soared into the sky, far denser than in other places. Such a dense ghost qi. Is the ghost king of this level here? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Then he rushed straight into the valley. When Lu Ming rushed into the valley, it was as if he had rushed into a hornet's nest. Countless hungry ghosts screamed and rushed towards Lu Ming. They were so densely packed that it was impossible to count how many there were. Sun God power. Lu Ming circulated his sun god power to the extreme, and his entire body turned into a sun. Light shone in all directions, and all the hungry ghosts that were shone on by the sun turned into black smoke. Although there were many hungry ghouls, most of them were 8th-level celestial gods or below. They posed no threat to Lu Ming. Lu Ming easily rushed into the depths of the valley. Then Lu Ming saw an especially huge hungry ghost rushing towards Lu Ming. Heaven God, Layer 9. Lu Ming sensed that this huge, hungry ghost had the cultivation of a heaven god Layer 9. However, it was only equivalent to the most ordinary heaven god Layer 9. Lu Ming punched out, and a 9-clawed dragon appeared. This 9-clawed dragon was condensed with the sun god power as the core. When this 9-clawed dragon pounced on the huge hungry ghost, it was easily torn apart by the 9-clawed dragon. It also turned into black smoke and dissipated. When this huge hungry ghost was killed, the other hungry ghosts screamed and stopped attacking Lu Ming. Instead, they fled backwards. In the blink of an eye, there was not a single one left. At this time, in front of Lu Ming, the space rippled and a pitch-black vortex appeared. This is the entrance to the next layer of hell. It seems like that huge hungry ghost is the ghost king of this layer. Lu Ming smiled faintly. As long as he killed the ghost king of this layer, the entrance to the next layer of hell would automatically appear. Lu Ming took a step forward and stepped into the vortex. In the next moment, Lu Ming appeared in another layer of hell. Outside, Yuan Huan, Yuan Song, and the rest were watching. At this moment, the second floor of the stone pagoda that was as tall as a man suddenly lit up and started to shine. The second layer, someone whispered. No one's expression changed. The first layer of the 18 layers of hell was very simple. The Ghost King's cultivation was only at the Heaven God Layer 9. Killing it was easy. They weren't surprised at all. If Lu Ming couldn't even pass the first layer, they would be surprised. The second layer of hell. When Lu Ming appeared here, he was quickly surrounded. This time, it wasn't the hungry ghost that attacked him, but another kind of ghost, the big head ghost. This kind of ghost had a big head and was incomparably hard. However, their cultivation level was not high. In fact, it was not much different from the first level. Lu Ming easily killed a large number of big head ghosts and then looked for the king of big head ghosts in this hell. This time, Lu Ming's luck wasn't very good. It took him more than 10 days to find the big head ghost king and kill it. Lu Ming discovered that the big head ghost king's cultivation was also at the Heaven God Layer 9. However, it was slightly stronger than the hungry ghost king. The hungry ghost king's strength was roughly at the Heaven God Layer 9, while the big head ghost king was a Heaven God Layer 9 that controlled divine grade god force. After killing the big head ghost king, the entrance to hell appeared and Lu Ming entered the third layer. The ghosts on the third layer were different from the first 2 layers. They were slightly stronger. Moreover, Lu Ming discovered a problem. The deeper he went, the larger the area of hell would be. Naturally, it would be more difficult to find the Ghost King. Moreover, there were ghosts everywhere. While Lu Ming was searching for the Ghost King, he also had to fight nonstop. This time, Lu Ming spent even more time. It took him a full month and a half to find the Ghost King of the third layer of hell and kill it. At the same time, Lu Ming discovered that the Ghost King of the third layer was also at the Heaven God Layer 9. However, compared to the Ghost King of the second layer, it was a bit stronger. It was equivalent to a heaven god layer 9 that had awakened the origin divine power factor. After spending more than 2 months, he passed the 3rd layer. Lu Ming entered the 4th layer. The moment he entered the 4th layer, Lu Ming felt a little different. The cold wind whistled, and the atmosphere became more oppressive. Bang! Suddenly, the ground exploded. A skeleton rushed out, holding a rusty saber, and attacked Lu Ming. A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand, and he shattered this skeleton with a spear. However, the ground cracked open continuously. Skeletons rushed out continuously, charging at Lu Ming. The long spear shook, and hundreds of spear lights burst out in an instant. The hundreds of skeletons were instantly destroyed. Lu Ming executed the 9 heavens rock technique, and in a flash he left far away. The 4th layer of hell was a sea of skeletons. The number was shocking. Lu Ming could not be bothered to tangle with these skeletons. He executed the 9 heavens rock technique with all his might. Like a rock soaring in the 9 heavens, he searched for the skeleton king of this layer. However, the area of the 4th layer of hell was much larger than the 3rd layer. Moreover, the skeleton king was hidden underground. It was even more difficult to find. Lu Ming spent a full 3 months before he found the skeleton king. Chapter 30:173. The skeleton king of the 4th layer was even stronger than the previous ones. He had reached the half-step divine king realm and was equivalent to a half-step divine king who had grasped the divine grade divine force. WW, WW, WW. However, he was still easily killed by Lu Ming. Then he entered the 5th layer. The ghost king of the 5th layer was also a half-step divine king, but it was equivalent to a half-step divine king who had awakened the origin divine force factor. Although the ghost king of the 6th layer was also a half-step divine king, it was equivalent to a half-step divine king who had awakened the origin divine force factor twice. Lu Ming used a total of 2 years to pass the first 6 layers. The top 7 layers of the stone pagoda outside shone brightly. This meant that Lu Ming had passed the 6th layer and was now on the 7th layer. Not bad to be able to pass the 6th layer. Someone nodded and praised. Lu Ming was only an 8th layer heavenly god, but the ghost king of the 6th layer was a half-step divine king who had awakened the origin divine force factor twice. Lu Ming being able to pass the 6th layer meant that Lu Ming had killed the ghost king of the 6th layer. With his 8th layer heavenly god cultivation, he was able to jump several levels and kill the ghost king who had awakened the origin divine force factor twice. The difference between the 6th layer and the 9th layer is like heaven and earth. Passing the 6th layer can only mean that you are talented. Only by passing the 9th layer can you be considered a peerless genius who is worthy of the dark ape-fighting tribe's allegiance. Yuan Song said. The other dark apes kept quiet and continued to wait. When Lu Ming arrived at the 7th level of the 18 levels of hell, he discovered that the ghosts on this level were more powerful on average. Countless ghosts were densely packed, and they charged toward Lu Ming. There were too many of them. If it were anyone else, they would have to spend a lot of energy just to deal with these ghosts. They would not have the energy to search for the Ghost King. It was no wonder that some people had to spend thousands or even tens of thousands of years to pass the first layer. Those who were not strong enough would have a hard time dealing with these ghosts while searching for the Ghost King. It was normal for them to spend more time. But to Lu Ming, these ghosts were nothing. Lu Ming unleashed his full strength, killing a large number of ghosts. Lu Ming easily broke out of the encirclement, although a large number of ghosts tried to stop Lu Ming along the way. Lu Ming easily broke through them all. Lu Ming fought these ghosts while searching for the King of Ghosts. Finally, after half a year, Lu Ming found the gathering place of the King of Ghosts. It was a huge cave. Lu Ming charged forward, all the way to the depths of the cave. In the depths of the cave, the temperature plummeted. The temperature was so low that even Lu Ming shivered. These are building blocks. Lu Ming swept his gaze and discovered a small tree with the thickness of an arm in the cave. However, the terrifyingly low temperature was emitted from this small tree. Ha ha ha, kid, you're rich. Building blocks are a kind of extreme treasure, like extreme cold treasures that can also fuse with the energy of the stellar core and speed up my refining of the stellar core. In his sea of consciousness, the quantifying character formula laughed. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He did not expect that there would be such a treasure in the 18 levels of hell. Obviously, this was something that the 18 levels of hell had nurtured over countless years. It was not very useful to ordinary nether apes, but it was very useful to Lu Ming. Then I can only take it. Lu Ming smiled. Roar. At this moment, a loud roar was heard. A terrifying ghost charged toward Lu Ming. The vast pressure of a divine king filled the air. As expected, the ghost king of the 7th level is equivalent to a divine king. It's a divine king with divine grade, divine power. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This was not beyond his expectations. With each level, the Ghost King's strength would increase by a notch. A first-layer God King with divine grade, divine power. If it was any other 8th-layer heavenly god, it would be impossible for them to pass. However, it was nothing to Lu Ming. Lu Ming activated the battle character formula to increase his combat strength by 4 times and stabbed out with his spear. The third move of the Armageddon 3 strikes supernova. Destructive energy surged toward the Ghost King and enveloped it completely. After a few breaths, the Ghost King disappeared completely. With the Ghost King dead, the other ghosts fled without a trace. Then, the gate to the next level of hell appeared. However, Lu Ming was not in a hurry to enter the gate. After all, if he did not enter, the gate would not disappear. Lu Ming walked toward the building block, took out a saber, and cut the building block. Lu Ming did not uproot it. He left the roots so that it would continue to grow in the future. Old Leon, I'll leave it to you. Lu Ming said, Leave it to me. The measure character formula flew out. A ray of light enveloped the building block and swallowed it. Kid, if you can get more of these extreme treasures, my refining speed will increase greatly. At that time, your cultivation speed will also increase greatly. The measure character formula said. Lu Ming's eyes were burning with passion. This was only the 7th level of hell. Lu Ming found that the further down he went, the denser the ghost chi and chi would be. It was very likely that extreme treasures would be born. If the 7th level had such treasures, then what about the 8th level, the 9th level, or even the 10th level? If he could find more extreme treasures, Lu Ming's cultivation speed would definitely increase greatly. Let's go to the 8th level. Lu Ming took a step forward and entered the whirlpool. He arrived at the 8th level. After a period of searching and killing, Lu Ming finally found the Ghost King of the 8th level. The Ghost King of the 8th level was also in the first layer of the King God realm. However, it was equivalent to a first layer of the King God realm who had awakened the origin divine force factor. In the Ghost King's residence, Lu Ming found a building block. Moreover, the chi from it was much denser than the one from before. After Lu Ming killed the ghost, he cut down the building block and let the measure character formula devour it. There really is a building block. Let's go to the 9th level. Lu Ming's eyes were burning with passion. Previously, he wanted to complete the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe's assessment. However, he now had another goal. That was to find building blocks and extreme treasures to refine the energy of the stellar core. After arriving at the 9th level, Lu Ming continued to search for the Ghost King. On the outside, many Dark Ape Fighting Tribe members were shocked. He passed the 8th level. He actually passed the 8th level. He's only in the 8th level of the Heavenly God realm, but he passed the 8th level. Terrifying. His talent is really terrifying. some of the dark ape fighting tribe members exclaimed. On the 8th level, not to mention the other ghosts, even the Ghost King was in the 1st level of the King God realm. Such strength was already earth-shattering. A peerless genius, the patriarch of the dark ape fighting tribe, Yuan Huan muttered. His face was filled with joy. On the other hand, the great elder of the dark ape fighting tribe remained expressionless. No one could tell what he was thinking. However, the Ghost King on the 9th level is equivalent to a 1st level of the King God realm who has awakened his divine power factor twice. Can he pass it? Someone asked. Chapter 3174. That's very likely. After all, he didn't take long to pass the 8th floor. This means that the ordinary ghosts on the 8th floor can't trap him at all. I'm afraid his strength is much stronger than we thought. That's right. If he can pass the 9th level and complete the test, it might not be a bad thing. At this moment, many of the dark ape fighting tribe members were hoping that Lu Ming could pass the 9th level. Passing the 9th level was enough to prove Lu Ming's talent. With Lu Ming's talent, the dark ape fighting tribe might become even stronger in the future if they followed Lu Ming. On the 9th level of the 18 levels of hell, Lu Ming was besieged by a large number of ghosts. The ghosts on this level were a type of zombie. Their bodies were as hard as iron, and their defense and strength were shocking. They were not afraid of death and were very difficult to kill. Most of them were level 9 heavenly gods, and some were even half-step divine kings. It was not easy to break out of the encirclement when surrounded by a large number of these zombies, let alone find the zombie king. Moreover, killing these zombies consumed a lot of divine power. Boom! 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 Lu Ming waved his long spear, and the spear light was like a mountain pressing down on the zombies. The zombies were sent flying like cannonballs and fell to the ground, turning into meat paste. Sky Piercer. Finally, Lu Ming became one with his spear and turned into a dazzling spear light. He shot up into the sky and killed a bloody path as he flew into the distance. Roar, on the ground. Countless zombies roared and chased after Lu Ming. There are so many zombies. If I continue to be entangled by so many of them, my divine power will be depleted soon. Lu Ming's face finally turned serious. He was not afraid of the zombie strength, as he could easily kill them. However, there were too many of them. If this continued, even if he had a large amount of divine power stored in the quantifying character formula, it would be depleted sooner or later. How could anyone else complete this level of difficulty? There should be a place to rest and recuperate. Lu Ming thought to himself. Without a place to recuperate, Lu Ming did not believe that anyone could complete this level of difficulty unless they were much stronger than him. Lu Ming killed his way through, carving out a path of blood. He randomly chose a direction and flew. After fighting for a few hours, Lu Ming's own divine power was almost exhausted. He could only use the divine power from the quantifying character formula. Not long after, Lu Ming saw a huge stone pillar standing between heaven and earth. The sudden appearance of a stone pillar on the ground was very abrupt. It was definitely not ordinary. Lu Ming's eyes flickered a few times before he flew towards the stone pillar and landed on it. The strange thing was that when Lu Ming landed on the stone pillar, the zombies that were chasing him suddenly stopped. They looked left and right, as if they had lost track of Lu Ming. After wandering around for a while, the zombies all left and disappeared from the ground. They were all gone. It really works. Lu Ming smiled. It seemed that the stone pillars were meant for people to rest and recuperate. Otherwise, not many people would be able to stand up against so many zombies. It was only a matter of time before they ran out of God power. With this kind of resting place, he could calmly recover his divine power and then slowly search for the Zombie King. But speaking of which, the difficulty of the 9th floor was much more difficult than the previous floors. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and slowly recovered. Several days later, Lu Ming set off again. However, Not long after he left the stone pillar, he was surrounded by a large number of zombies. Lu Ming continued to fight with the zombies. As he fought, he flew. After rushing for a long distance, Lu Ming found another stone pillar. Obviously, there was a stone pillar at every certain distance in the 8th floor of hell. Lu Ming landed on the stone pillar, and the zombies disappeared without a trace. Just like this, Lu Ming walked and stopped. It took him a total of 3 years to find the location of the Zombie King. It was a zombie cave, and there were a large number of zombies living inside. Roar! As soon as Lu Ming arrived at the zombie cave, an angry roar came from the zombie cave. Then, a large zombie army rushed out. The strength of this zombie army was obviously stronger than the zombies scattered in other places. Most of them were half-step Divine King zombies, and there were more than 300 of them. The 300 half-step Divine King zombies were impenetrable, and their bodies were as tough as divine weapons. They roared and pounced on Lu Ming. After the 300 half-step Divine King zombies rushed out, a golden-furred zombie walked out from the zombie cave. This zombie was tall and sturdy, and it was 3 meters tall. It emitted a powerful aura. Zombie King. Lu Ming concluded that this was the Zombie King. Before Lu Ming could kill his way into the zombie cave, the Zombie King had already led his army out. Roar! Lu Ming shouted, and his body began to expand rapidly, turning into a green-armored ancient god. After turning into a green-armored ancient god, Lu Ming's battle strength skyrocketed, and his huge spear was like a mountain range, smashing towards the zombies. Given Lu Ming's current strength, when he transformed into a green-armored ancient god, his strength was unimaginable. No matter how strong these half-step Divine King zombies were, or how strong their defense was, how could they be a match for Lu Ming? Bang! 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 One by one, the zombies exploded and died on the spot. Soon, the 300 half-step Divine King zombies were mostly killed by Lu Ming. Roar! The Zombie King let out an angry roar, and like a golden lightning, it rushed towards Lu Ming. Its long, sharp claws were like blades, and it clawed at Lu Ming, making a terrifying whistling sound. Lu Ming waved his long spear and swept it out to meet the attack. Dang! A violent collision sound was heard, and the long spear vibrated. Lu Ming felt a powerful force rushing towards him, and Lu Ming could not help but take a few steps back. As for the Zombie King, its body also retreated. What shocking power! This Zombie King's strength is probably on par with Yuan Yu's. Lu Ming's heart moved. This Zombie King was equivalent to a first-layer Divine King who had awakened his divine power factor twice, which was similar to Yuan Yu. In addition, the Zombie King was incomparably tough, powerful, and fearless of death, so its overall strength was not weaker than Yuan Yu's. Back then, when Lu Ming was a 7th-layer Divine King, he was not Yuan Yu's opponent without using the Gate of Domination. Now that he had broken through to the 8th-layer Divine King, he could compete. Roar! Seeing that he did not kill Lu Ming in one move, the Zombie King became even more furious and continued to pounce towards Lu Ming, its sharp claws like blades, constantly attacking Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and also attacked the Zombie King. Lu Ming did not use the Gate of Domination. The Zombie King was a good opponent to train with and could be used to train his various secret techniques and divine skills. Lu Ming used the Divine Dragon Aspect technique, the Yin-Yang God Eye, and the world-destroying 3 strikes to fight with the Zombie King. Although Lu Ming had many methods, after dozens of moves, Lu Ming was actually at a disadvantage. Lu Ming still did not use the Gate of Domination and continued to fight with the Zombie King. Chapter 31-75. Lu Ming and the Zombie King fought for more than 200 moves. Although Lu Ming was slightly at a disadvantage, it was not that easy for the Zombie King to defeat him. My world-destroying 3 strikes is about to break through. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Lu Ming had broken through to the 8th level of the world, destroying 3 strikes a long time ago, and had been stuck at the peak of the 8th level. Now that he had fought with the Zombie King, he finally felt that the world-destroying 3 strikes was about to break through. At this time, Lu Ming would not use the Ruler's Gate. He would only use the world-destroying 3 strikes to fight with the Zombie King. Sky-piercing, moon-slashing, star-shattering, Lu Ming used the world-destroying 3 strikes in turn, constantly clashing with the Zombie King. Swish! Suddenly, just as Lu Ming used the move moon-slashing, an even brighter crescent-shaped spear light burst out and slashed towards the Zombie King. This time, the power of the moon-slashing strike was clearly a notch stronger than before. Breakthrough! The world-destroying 3 strikes had broken through to the 9th level. This was also the highest level of the world-destroying 3 strikes. Breaking through to the 9th level allowed the power of the world-destroying 3 strikes to increase by another level. Boom! The crescent-shaped spear light collided with the Zombie King's sharp claws once again. This time, Lu Ming and the Zombie King both retreated. This time they were evenly matched. Lu Ming revealed a happy expression. In other words, he did not need to rely on the Ruler's Gate to fight with Yuan Yu. It's about time. Lu Ming's mouth curled into a smile. After breaking through the world, destroying 3 strikes, Lu Ming was already satisfied. It was time to kill the Zombie King. Ruler's Gate, come out. Lu Ming whispered as the Ruler's Gate appeared above his head. Boom! The Ruler's Gate shook and then suppressed the Zombie King. The Ruler's Gate was extremely powerful, and its power was incomparably terrifying. The Zombie King tried his best to block, but he was still sent flying and smashed into a huge mountain. Kill! Lu Ming continued to control the Sovereign's Gate to suppress the Zombie King. The Zombie King rushed out of the rubble and faced the bombardment of the Gate of Dominion. The Zombie King's body was once again blasted to the ground. Faced with the attack of the Gate of Domination, the Zombie King had no way to retaliate. After more than 10 consecutive attacks, even with the Zombie King's defensive power, he couldn't withstand it, and his body exploded. 9th floor cleared. In front of him, a pitch-black vortex appeared. Clearly, this was the door to the 10th level. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and decided not to enter the whirlpool. Instead, he wanted to walk into the zombie cave. The Zombie King's lair had not been plundered yet, so how could he leave so easily? Sure enough, in the Zombie King's lair, Lu Ming found another Yin building block. Moreover, the Yin chi of this Yin building was much denser than the previous 2. Lu Ming was overjoyed as he cut down the Yin building block and fed it to the measuring character formula. Then Lu Ming walked out of the zombie cave and arrived at the door to the 10th level. This time, Lu Ming did not hesitate and stepped through the door to the 10th level. Passing the 9th level meant that he had passed the test this time. However, Lu Ming did not want it to end like this. He wanted to keep going down and see how many levels he could pass in the end. The more levels he passed, the stronger his talent would be. Wouldn't the Dark Ape Battle tribe be more convinced and loyal to him? Also, Lu Ming wanted to obtain more Yin treasures. The 18 levels of hell were simply a treasure trove for Lu Ming. From the 7th level onwards, every level had Yin treasures that were of great help to Lu Ming in refining the energy of the stellar core. Moreover, the ghosts here were also good targets for tempering. Through constant fighting, Lu Ming's understanding of various divine skills, secret techniques, and even various divine powers would greatly increase. Anyway, he still had plenty of time. Cultivating here would definitely be faster than cultivating back at the Starry Camp. It would be better to cultivate here, killing many birds with one stone. Why would he want to go out? Outside, a large number of Dark Ape Battle tribe elites were staring at the stone pagoda. Suddenly, the 9th level of the stone pagoda shone with a dazzling light. After a breath, the light dimmed a little. After each level's king of ghosts was killed, the corresponding level of the stone pagoda would shine a few times. When the ninth level shone, the hearts of the Dark Ape Battle tribe members began to beat faster. He passed! He passed the ninth level. I didn't expect him to pass the ninth level. It's a miracle. It's really a miracle. Great! An eighth level heavenly god has passed the ninth level. He's a peerless genius and is qualified to be the new war progenitor of the Dark Ape Battle tribe. I have no objections to this person becoming the new war progenitor. The scene was noisy as all the Dark Ape Battle tribe members discussed spiritedly. Seeing that Lu Ming had passed the ninth level, almost all of the Dark Ape Battle tribe members agreed that Lu Ming was the new war progenitor. Even Yuan Tsong, who had been strongly against it, smiled. On the other hand, Yuan Huan was ecstatic. As expected of the person chosen by war progenitor Startled Feather. His talent is amazing, Yuan Huan exclaimed. All of the Dark Ape Battle tribe members were waiting for Lu Ming to come out and support Lu Ming as the new war progenitor. However, no matter how long they waited, Lu Ming did not come out. Why hasn't the war progenitor come out yet? Someone was puzzled. Suddenly, someone screamed, "Look! The 10th level is shining. The war progenitor has gone to the 10th level." What? The other Dark Ape Battle tribe members were shocked. They quickly looked at the stone pagoda and saw that the 10th level was shining. This meant that Lu Ming had reached the 10th level. He actually reached the 10th level? Is he going to challenge the deeper levels of hell? Amazing! As expected of the war progenitor, many dark apes could not help but exclaim. How many levels do you think the war progenitor can pass? It's hard to say. I think the war progenitor can pass the 11th level, but I don't think he can pass the 12th level. Not necessarily. After the 9th level, every level has a different difficulty. Maybe the war progenitor can't even pass the 10th level? That's very possible. You should know that the 10th level is different from the previous 9 levels. Let's wait and see. The remaining Dark Ape Battle tribe members, including Yuan Huan and Yuan Tsong, were curious. They stared at the stone pagoda, wondering how many levels Lu Ming could pass. Lu Ming did not know that his appearance on the 10th level would attract so many thoughts from the Dark Ape Battle tribe. He was looking curiously at a ghost in front of him. It was a black-clothed swordsman, a headless, black-clothed swordsman. Lu Ming saw the black-clothed swordsman as soon as he appeared on the 10th level. Kung! Sword gleams surged, and the black sword was unsheathed, slashing toward Lu Ming. Half-step Divine King Realm. Lu Ming had just arrived on the 10th level, and the first ghost he encountered was already a half-step Divine King Realm. It was obvious that the 10th level was not to be underestimated. Lu Ming waved his long spear and swept it across the black-clothed swordsman's sword. Chapter 3176. Lu Ming's spear destroyed the black-clothed swordsman's sword light. But in the next moment, Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. W? He felt a strange energy from the black-clothed swordsman's sword light. It followed Lu Ming's spear and directly rushed into Lu Ming's body. It surged towards his sea of consciousness and bombarded Lu Ming's soul. Lu Ming's soul trembled slightly as he felt a slight stabbing pain. Soul attack! Lu Ming's eyes flashed. This headless, black-clothed swordsman could actually launch a soul attack. However, Lu Ming had obtained a lot of demonic night spring water back then. Over the years, he had already refined all of the demonic night spring water. His soul had also been tempered and was much stronger than cultivators of the same level. That move just now did not cause any substantial damage to Lu Ming, but it was enough to surprise Lu Ming. Soul attacks had always been extremely special. The reason why the people from the 9 Nether Heavenly King residents were terrifying was that they could use soul attacks. Often, it could greatly affect one's condition, and one would not be able to use 50% of one's strength. Clang! The sound of the sword rang out again. The headless, black-clothed swordsman attacked, Lu Ming again. At the same time, the sound of a sword rang out behind Lu Ming. Unknowingly, 5 black-clothed knights appeared behind Lu Ming. There were a total of 7 of them, and they attacked Lu Ming at the same time. Whoosh, 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 the black sword light formed a net of sword chi and attacked Lu Ming. Whoa! Lu Ming shook his long spear and swept it out, extinguishing all the sword gleams. However, there was a strange energy in each sword light that rushed towards Lu Ming, attacking Lu Ming's soul. However, Lu Ming had the Jingyu painting. With a thought, the Jingyu painting surrounded Lu Ming's soul. When those attacks landed on the frightening feather painting, they were all blocked. Soul attacks were ineffective against Lu Ming. Lu Ming's spear swept out in all directions, crushing all of the headless, black-robed swordsmen. However, after the headless swordsman's body exploded, it turned into black smoke and reformed not far away. Kill! At this time, fierce battle cries resounded. Not far away, several black lights soared into the sky from several mountains, and several black shadows rushed towards Lu Ming. These shadows were not headless swordsmen in black. Instead, they were ghosts wearing black armor and wielding giant swords. These ghosts were extremely fast. Their huge swords pierced through the air and slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming blocked with his spear. Clang! Clang! Lu Ming's long spear trembled as the giant sword chopped down on the long spear. The several black-armored swordsmen were shaken and sent flying. Pure power, interesting, Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He felt that these black-armored swordsmen were extremely powerful, surpassing the headless swordsmen in black. However, they did not have the ability of soul. The 10th floor was indeed different. Whoosh! Whoosh! Golden light pierced through the air. The headless swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen attacked Lu Ming at the same time. Their sword net was like silk enveloping Lu Ming. Die! Lu Ming muttered. The divine power in his body surged crazily. His long spear trembled and streaks of spear light pierced out like meteors. Pung! 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 The headless swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen all collapsed. This time, the headless swordsmen were unable to reform their bodies. As long as one's power was strong enough, they could completely destroy the headless swordsmen, making it difficult for them to reform. After defeating these headless swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen, Lu Ming's figure flashed and left this place. However, the 10th floor was filled with swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen. Lu Ming was besieged. Lu Ming killed his way through. Fortunately, this floor was the same as the 9th floor. There was a stone pillar at regular intervals. As soon as he stepped on the stone pillar, the swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen scattered as if they could not see Lu Ming. Lu Ming rested for a while before continuing to search for the 10th floor's king. The 10th floor's territory was even larger. Lu Ming went around in circles, fighting ghosts and honing various divine skills and secret arts while searching for the Ghost King. After 9 rounds of exploration, Lu Ming had some experience. Wherever the Ghost King was, there would be the most Ghost Kings. Lu Ming specifically went to the place with the most ghosts. This time, Lu Ming found the Ghost King's location in just over a year. Kill! Battle cries shook the sky. A large number of headless swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen had gathered on a mountain peak. At the peak of the mountain, there was a headless swordsman riding on a headless warhorse. His aura was threatening. Ghost King! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This headless swordsman riding on a warhorse was definitely the Ghost King of this floor. His aura was at the Divine King realm. The Ghost King roared, and thousands of headless swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen charged towards Lu Ming. Thousands of half-step Divine King realm experts. Moreover, there were headless swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen who could attack souls. Their combined strength was terrifying. Even if ordinary sky prides could pass the ninth floor and reach the 10th floor, they would be at a disadvantage when faced with such soul attacks. If they were not careful, they would be defeated. However, soul attacks were ineffective against Lu Ming. Therefore, it was not difficult for Lu Ming this time. Lu Ming turned into a green-armored ancient god and charged into the group of black-armored swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen. Lu Ming did not set up any defense against the attacks of the black-armored swordsmen. He waved his spear, and wherever he passed, the black-armored swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen would explode. Soon, Lu Ming killed his way through and charged towards the Ghost King. Kill! A loud roar was heard. The headless swordsman Ghost King had no head. His voice came from nowhere. Then his war horse galloped in the air and waved his battle sword, charging towards Lu Ming. Clang! The two exchanged a blow. Lu Ming's figure retreated slightly. First Divine King realm, but he has soul attacks. After exchanging a blow, Lu Ming had a rough idea of the strength of the headless swordsman riding on a war horse. This Ghost King's strength was equivalent to an existence that had awakened the second godly power factor. It was similar to the golden-haired zombie king on the 9th floor. However, this Ghost King had soul attacks and was obviously more difficult to deal with than the zombie king. For other sky prides, the difficulty of the 10th floor might be several times higher than the 9th floor. However, for Lu Ming, the difficulty of the 10th floor was even lower than the 9th floor. The frightening feather painting blocked the soul attack. The soul attack did not affect him at all. Lu Ming held his spear and charged towards the Ghost King. After losing his trump card, the Ghost King's strength was not even comparable to the Zombie King. Lu Ming did not even need to use the Dominator's Gate to suppress him. Roar, roar, roar. Dragon roars shook the sky. 9-clawed dragon appeared one after another and pounced towards the Ghost King. At the same time, the ice chains were like long snakes that coiled towards the Ghost King. Lu Ming used the world-extinguishing 3 strikes and attacked the Ghost King. The two fought fiercely. After dozens of blows, Lu Ming began to gain the upper hand and forced the Ghost King to retreat. P.S. Readers, I am the Shepherd Boy Tingzhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 30-177. Roar! Suddenly, a few more 9-clawed dragons appeared above Lu Ming's head. W. Aina. Calm. During the battle, the divine dragon aspect art had a breakthrough and formed a few more dragons. In that case, Lu Ming could condense a total of 25 9-clawed divine dragons by condensing the divine dragon aspect art with all his might. With so many 9-clawed dragons attacking together, the power was extremely shocking as they crazily pounced on the Ghost King. Bam! The remaining warhorse of the headless, black-clothed swordsman, Ghost King, was hit and one of its legs exploded. Moon slashing! Lu Ming seized the opportunity and struck the Ghost King with his spear, splitting its body into 2 halves. However, the Ghost King's body retreated, and the 2 halves of its body condensed once again. Exploding star! Lu Ming didn't give the other party a chance to reform. He used the exploding star, and the destructive power enveloped the other party. At the same time, an ancient door appeared above Lu Ming's head. It was the Gate of Domination. The exploding star and the Gate of Domination bombarded down at the same time. The Ghost King let out a blood-curdling scream as his body exploded, never to recover again. With the death of the Ghost King, the other black-clothed swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen all dispersed. Are there any extreme Yin treasures? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation as he walked towards the peak of the mountain. At the peak of the mountain, there were 2 trees that were filled with dense Yin qi, which attracted Lu Ming's attention. Yin building blocks, there really are 2 of them. Lu Ming was ecstatic. The Yin qi of these 2 Yin building blocks was very dense. Each of them was about the same as the one on the 9th floor. As expected of the 10th floor of the 18 levels of hell, it was extraordinary. Without hesitation, Lu Ming took out his saber and cut off the 2 building blocks. Then, he let the measure of formula devour them. After collecting the building blocks, Lu Ming took a step forward and walked toward the door of the 11th level. He then arrived at the 11th level. The 11th and 10th levels were very similar. The ghosts were also black-robed swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen, but they were slightly stronger. For Lu Ming, it was not difficult at all. After spending some time, Lu Ming found the Ghost King of this floor. The Ghost King of the 11th floor was also a black-clothed swordsman riding a warhorse. The only difference between this floor and the 10th floor was that the number of subordinates of this Ghost King was even greater, reaching 3,000. Among the 3,000 black-clothed and black-armored swordsmen, there was a first sky of King God Realm Warrior. They formed a great formation and attacked Lu Ming. With so many powerful specters forming a spell formation, the difficulty of dealing with them increased dramatically. Even Lu Ming had no choice but to take them seriously. He even resorted to using the Sovereign's Gate. After fighting for a while, the Ghost King charged in and worked with the ghostly army to attack Lu Ming. This Ghost King's strength was about the same as the one on the 10th floor. The main difficulty was that its subordinates knew how to use tactics. After fighting for a full hour, Lu Ming finally killed the Ghost King and passed the 11th floor. On this floor, Lu Ming also obtained 2 building blocks. 12th floor. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He didn't stop and entered the 12th floor. The Dark Ape Battle tribe members outside were even more shocked. He entered the 12th floor. The Battle Ancestor entered the 12th floor. Amazing! Amazing! Many members of the Nether Ape Fighting Tribe gasped in amazement. Unknowingly, they had even changed the way they addressed Lu Ming. They now addressed him as Combat Ancestor. Clearly, they had completely acknowledged Lu Ming in their hearts. Lu Ming arrived at the 12th floor and discovered that it was different from the 11th floor. Apart from the black-clothed swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen, there were other specters, such as zombies and skeletons. The specters that appeared in the previous floors were all here. The specter strength was astonishing. Most of them were half-step god kings, and the weakest was a 9th level heaven god. Occasionally, there were even god king realm specters. Lu Ming killed his way through. Finally, Lu Ming found a specter army camp. That's right, it really was an army camp of ghosts. Roar! With a loud roar, a headless, black-clothed swordsman rode out of the camp, leading the specter army. It's him again. Looks like he's the Ghost King here. Lu Ming smiled. Then he charged over. Just like the 11th floor, the Ghost Kings here would also form a large formation to fight Lu Ming. At the same time, the Ghost Kings would also join the Spectre army to fight Lu Ming. The strength of the Ghost Kings here was similar to the Ghost Kings on the 11th and 10th floors. The main reason was that the Spectre army was difficult to deal with. Roar! While they were fighting fiercely, a loud roar came from another direction. Then, another Spectre army appeared. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Wasn't there already an Spectre army here? Why was there another one? Rumble. The ground shook as the Spectre army charged toward Lu Ming. This was an army made up entirely of zombies. The leader was a golden-furred zombie king. Nestle, it seems that there's more than one Spectre king on this floor. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Yuan Huan and the others only said that he had to kill the Spectre king on each floor to pass. But they didn't say that there was only one Spectre king on each floor. The 2 armies besieged Lu Ming. At the same time, the zombie king also charged toward Lu Ming. In this way, the pressure on Lu Ming multiplied. He used all his strength and all kinds of methods. The Gate of Domination was the main attack, and other attacks were constantly attacking the specters and the two Spectre Kings in all directions. Fortunately, Lu Ming was immune to soul attacks. If it were any other prodigy, even if they had Lu Ming's combat strength, they wouldn't be able to hold on and would have been defeated long ago. Battle Formula: Quintuple Combat Strength. During the battle, Lu Ming used all his strength to activate the battle formula to quintuple his combat strength. Lu Ming's chances of activating the battle formula quintuple combat strength was only 1 in 10. But under Lu Ming's continuous activation, he finally succeeded. In an instant, Lu Ming's strength increased, and he felt his muscles bulging. He had an inexhaustible amount of energy. What power! My divine body almost couldn't hold on. Lu Ming thought. This was only the first time he had activated the battle formula quintuple combat strength. He immediately realized that quintupling combat strength put a huge burden on his divine body. With his current divine body, he could barely hold on. Fortunately, he had the heart of the ancient god, which was constantly tempering his divine body, allowing it to slowly evolve into an ancient god. Otherwise, even if he comprehended the battle formula quintuple combat strength, he wouldn't be able to use it. After activating the battle formula quintuple combat strength, Lu Ming's strength also increased sharply. The battle formula and the Gate of Domination's power were even more terrifying. Boom! The Gate of Domination pressed down and bombarded the Zombie King's body. The Zombie King roared as its incomparably hard body was torn apart. It was killed in one move. At the same time, Lu Ming swept out with his spear, sending the black-clothed Swordsman King flying. At the same time, he killed hundreds of black-clothed swordsmen and black-armored swordsmen. P.S. Readers, I'm Shepherd Boy Tingzhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 30, 178. After activating the battle character art, Lu Ming's strength skyrocketed. He was now completely above the Zombie King and the headless, black-clothed Swordsman King. The Gate of Domination killed the Zombie King in one move, and Lu Ming sent the black-clothed Swordsman King flying with his spear. Then, Lu Ming rushed toward the black-clothed Swordsman King, and the Gate of Domination suppressed it. Boom! The black-clothed Swordsman King followed in the footsteps of the Zombie King and was blasted into pieces. However, the black-clothed Swordsman King's vitality was even more tenacious. Its body wanted to reform, but how could Lu Ming give it the chance? The Gate of Domination suppressed it again, and the black-clothed Swordsman King was completely killed. With the death of the 2 Ghost Kings, the rest of the ghosts fled without a trace. Huff, huff! Lu Ming gasped for breath and hurriedly removed the 5 times battle strength state. Then his body shrunk and returned to normal. At the same time, he also put away the Gate of Domination. Lu Ming's killing moves all had high requirements on his body. The azure-armored ancient god used it for a long time, and the battle character arts, 5 times battle strength, had a high burden on the divine body. As for the Gate of Domination, it also consumed an astonishing amount of divine power. After putting it all away, Lu Ming felt weak. Fortunately, with the death of the Ghost Kings, the other ghosts all fled. In front of him, a pitch-black vortex appeared. Lu Ming ignored it and sat cross-legged, circulating his energy to adjust his breathing. After a while, Lu Ming recovered to his peak. Then, Lu Ming walked toward the army camp. In the army camp, Lu Ming also found 2 building blocks. There are 2 Ghost Kings here. The Zombie King should also have building blocks. Lu Ming's heart moved. He didn't step into the pitch-black vortex to enter the 13th floor. Instead, he searched everywhere. Strangely enough, after the 2 Ghost Kings were killed by Lu Ming, the ghosts on this floor fled as soon as they saw Lu Ming. They didn't dare to fight with Lu Ming. Lu Ming's journey was unimpeded, and not long after, he found another military camp. Naturally, it was the Zombie King's military camp. In the Zombie King's camp, Lu Ming also found 2 building blocks. Ha ha ha! With so many Yin building blocks, we can refine a lot of energy. Lu Ming was delighted. I wonder what the ghosts on the 13th floor are like. Let's continue. Lu Ming smiled and returned to the door leading to the 13th floor. He stepped through the door and arrived at the 13th floor. Outside, he's in. The battle ancestor has entered the 13th floor. The battle ancestor actually passed through the 12th floor and entered the 13th floor. He's only an 8th layer celestial god. Too shocking. All the dark ape battle tribe elites were shocked beyond words. An 8th layer celestial god had reached the 13th floor. This had never happened before in the history of the dark ape battle tribe. Although the most difficult part of each floor was the Ghost Kings, the most difficult part of the 11th and 12th floors was the army of ordinary ghosts. They knew very well how difficult it was to coordinate with each other. The 13th floor, there were more types of ghosts on this floor. Lu Ming had only been in here for an hour, and he had already found 7 or 8 types of ghosts, all of which were stronger. Among the ghosts that Lu Ming had encountered, the lowest cultivation level was at the half-step Divine King Realm. Moreover, the first heaven of the Divine King Realm was also common. While fighting, he also searched for the Ghost Kings. This could be considered a good way to cultivate. Lu Ming's divine skills and secret techniques were constantly improving. Even his understanding of other divine-grade divine powers was slowly improving. In this way, Lu Ming fought for 3 years on the 13th floor and finally found the Ghost King. The Ghost King on the 13th floor had reached the 2nd layer King God realm. However, this Ghost King had not awakened its divine-grade divine power factor, so its strength was limited. The main difficulty was the army of ghosts under the Ghost King. In this army of ghosts, the number of King God realm cultivators had increased dramatically. There were more than 100 of them. The overall difficulty was slightly higher than the 12th floor. In the end, Lu Ming activated the battle character formula to increase his fighting strength by 5 times and used the Dominator Stone Gate. After a fierce battle, he finally killed the Ghost King on this floor. On this floor, Lu Ming did not discover any Yin building blocks. Instead, he discovered a piece of black crystal. This piece of crystal was also an extreme Yin treasure. In fact, it was even more useful than the Yin building blocks. After the measure character formula swallowed the crystal, Lu Ming went to the 14th floor. On this floor, Lu Ming finally met with failure. The ordinary ghosts on this floor were all terrifyingly strong. Lu Ming finally found the Ghost King on this floor. He found that the Ghost King on this floor was in the 2nd layer King God realm, but it had awakened its divine-grade divine power factor. In the King God realm, the gap between each layer was huge, especially for those who had awakened their divine-grade divine power factor or had awakened it multiple times. The gap between each layer was even bigger. On this floor, the Ghost King and its army of ghosts worked together to defeat Lu Ming. Lu Ming coughed up blood and retreated. He was severely injured. Lu Ming retreated and successfully went to a stone pillar. All the ghosts retreated. Lu Ming sat down cross-legged. After a few days, his injuries were completely healed. However, Lu Ming did not leave the 18th floor of Hell just yet. After all, there was still a long time before the opening of the Great Void Imperial Academy. Lu Ming planned to cultivate here for a while. After recovering to his peak condition, Lu Ming attacked the Ghost King again. Naturally, another fierce battle ensued. In the end, Lu Ming retreated with injuries. After Lu Ming recovered, he attacked again. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been on the 14th level for 10 years. After 10 years of fierce fighting, each time a battle of life and death, Lu Ming improved greatly in all aspects. First, several divine skills, such as the 9 Heavens Garuda art and the 9-fold crimson gold armor, broke through to the 9th layer. In this way, Lu Ming cultivated the Armageddon 3 strikes and the 9-fold crimson gold armor to the highest level. Lu Ming also began to cultivate the war god strike that he had obtained from Chu Baxing. In addition, his understanding of the other kinds of divine powers had also improved greatly. Many divine-grade divine powers had awakened to 50 or 60%. Lu Ming focused on cultivating the Overlord Spear Force. Therefore, the Overlord Spear Force had improved the most. After so many years, Lu Ming had been comprehending it. Now he had reached 99%. He was only one step away from fully awakening it. Of course, this step was extremely difficult. After 10 years, the quantum character formula finally refined a powerful energy under the effect of the extreme Yin treasure. Now, it was being transferred to Lu Ming to help Lu Ming break through to the 9th layer of the celestial god realm. On a stone pillar, Lu Ming sat cross-legged. His aura was surging. Now his cultivation had reached the peak of the 8th layer of the celestial god realm, and he was about to break through to the 9th layer. Rumble. Divine power circulated in his body, producing loud, rumbling sounds. 3 days later, a powerful aura exploded from Lu Ming's body. He had broken through to the 9th layer of the celestial god realm. Chapter 30, 179. Lu Ming had finally broken through to the 9th layer of the heavenly god realm. The ultimate Yin treasure is really useful. Otherwise, even with the energy of the stellar core, I would need at least a few hundred years to break through to the 9th layer of the heavenly god realm. Lu Ming thought to himself. He was eager to get more ultimate Yin treasures. Kill. Lu Ming stood up and murmured. Then, he charged toward the ghost kings on this floor. Not long after, the battle began. However, now that Lu Ming had broken through to the 9th layer of the heavenly god realm and awakened various divine-grade divine force, his overall battle strength had skyrocketed. In addition, Lu Ming had activated the battle character formula to increase his battle strength by 5 times and used the Gate of Domination. Finally, he defeated the Ghost King army and killed the Ghost King on this floor. On this floor, Lu Ming obtained 2 crystals with ultimate Yin Qi. After the measure character formula swallowed the crystals, Lu Ming entered the 15th floor. Outside, the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe members who saw this scene were already numb. It was already a miracle that Lu Ming could come this far. Now, they wanted to see what other miracles Lu Ming could create. The ghosts on the 15th floor were undoubtedly stronger, especially the Ghost Kings. They were in the 2nd layer of the King God realm, but their divine origin factor had awakened twice. Lu Ming was no match for them. After all, the difference between each layer of the heavenly god realm was not as great as the King God realm. Although his cultivation had increased by 1 layer, the increase was not as great as the King God realm. It was not as great as awakening the divine origin factor. In this battle, Lu Ming was injured. After a fierce battle, Lu Ming broke through the encirclement. If I want to defeat this Ghost King, I will have to make another breakthrough in my cultivation or awaken the divine origin factor with more divine origin factors. Lu Ming analyzed his situation. Along the way, the quantum formula absorbed a lot of Yin building blocks and a few pieces of those crystals. It fused with a part of the energy of the star core for Lu Ming to absorb. However, the Yin treasure was not completely refined. There was still some left that was constantly neutralizing the energy of the star core. However, to break through to the half-step divine king realm, he needed a lot more energy. It wasn't easy to break through in a short time. Furthermore, the comprehension of divine power was not something that could be achieved overnight. Lu Ming had already made plans for long-term cultivation. Let's continue. After Lu Ming recovered to his peak, he charged towards the Ghost King. After a great battle, Lu Ming retreated. In the following days, Lu Ming wholeheartedly focused on cultivating, tempering himself, and fighting. Time passed day by day, year by year in the process of cultivation. In the blink of an eye, 120 years had passed since Lu Ming entered the 18 layers of hell. In total, it had been 120 years. There were less than 60 years left before the great void imperial family's holy court opened. On this day, Lu Ming, who was sitting cross-legged on a stone pillar, suddenly opened his eyes. His body was emitting a strong, ancient aura. The Overlord Spear Force has finally awakened its divine power origin factor. Lu Ming smiled. After so many years of cultivation, the Overlord Spear Force had finally awakened its divine power origin factor. In this way, Lu Ming had a total of 3 types of divine power that had awakened their divine power origin factor. They were the Sovereign's God Force, the Undying Sword Force, and the Overlord Spear Force. Lu Ming controlled a total of 8 divine-grade divine powers, 1 saint-grade divine power, and 1 king-grade divine power. In addition to these 3 divine powers, the other 5 divine-grade divine powers had all awakened 99%. For more than 100 years, Lu Ming had spent it in constant fighting. During the fighting, he had to constantly circulate his divine power. Therefore, his comprehension and utilization of divine power had improved very quickly. Therefore, Lu Ming could reach this level in 100 years. Whoosh! A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. The long spear trembled and pierced forward. A ray of spear radiance burst forth and flew a few thousand miles in an instant, piercing through a divine king realm zombie. After the Overlord Spear Force awakened, the power of the long spear has increased by a lot. Lu Ming smiled. Using a long spear was the most compatible with the Overlord Spear Force. The power of the long spear could be unleashed better. Moreover, Lu Ming had not only improved his various divine powers in the past 100 years. For example, there were various secret techniques and divine skills. Firstly, the divine dragon aspect art had improved greatly. Now Lu Ming could condense 36 9-clawed dragons in one go. Moreover, Lu Ming's newly cultivated War God Strike had been cultivated to the peak of the 8th level. As long as Lu Ming broke through to the 9th level, its power would be comparable to the world-extinguishing 3 strikes. Most importantly, Lu Ming's cultivation had broken through again, reaching the half-step God King realm. In his body, the 10 divine flames had disappeared and were replaced by 10 divine power vortexes. The divine power of the 10 divine power vortexes had been condensed to the extreme. As long as the 10 divine power vortexes were completely crystallized and turned into star cores, he would officially enter the God King realm. Of course, this step was extremely difficult. Countless cultivators were stuck at this step, unable to advance further. After reaching the half-step God King realm, Lu Ming's strength had improved greatly. It could be said that his strength had reached the peak. However, Lu Ming was still not satisfied. He could still advance further because he had the divine power source bead in his hand. Lu Ming planned to use the divine power source bead on the Overlord Spear Force to awaken the origin secret technique from the Overlord Spear Force. With a thought, the divine power source bead appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Without the slightest hesitation, Lu Ming swallowed the divine power source bead into his mouth. The moment the divine power source bead entered Lu Ming's mouth, under Lu Ming's control, it flew towards Lu Ming's dantian and merged with the Overlord Spear Force's divine power vortexes. In an instant, the divine power source bead dissolved, turning into a strange energy that completely merged with the Overlord Spear Force. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to have entered a special state. From the Overlord Spear Force, he saw a shocking scene. A long spear pierced through the universe's starry sky. Wherever the long spear passed, stars exploded, and a terrifying crack was torn in the universe's starry sky. The experts that blocked the long spear were pierced through one by one and killed. Powerful, terrifying, and incomparably domineering. Lu Ming seemed to be able to touch this long spear. Lu Ming knew that this was the Overlord's Spear Force's origin secret technique. Lu Ming's attention was highly focused as he quietly comprehended the experience at this moment. Time passed quickly, and more than 10 days passed. Overlord's spear! Suddenly, Lu Ming let out a low roar. Then his right hand grasped the void, and a long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. This seemed to be a stone spear, and it was filled with an ancient and desolate aura. It was filled with the traces of time, as if it had crossed countless years. This spear was exactly the same as the long spear that Lu Ming had seen earlier that had traversed the universe. Origin secret technique. This was the Overlord Spear Force's origin secret technique. Kill! Lu Ming let out a low roar and stabbed forward with his spear. Chapter 3180. Lu Ming held the Overlord God Spear and thrust it forward. A terrifying spear light appeared between heaven and earth, thrusting forward. Bam! 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 All the ghosts within 10,000 miles of the Overlord God Spear, regardless of their cultivation level, exploded and turned into ashes. In an instant, a 10,000-mile-long gap appeared between heaven and earth. Amazing! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The power of the Overlord God Spear was no weaker than the Gate of Gods. However, one should not forget that Lu Ming's divine skill was a long spear-type divine skill. If Lu Ming used the Overlord God Spear and used the divine skill, its power would be even stronger than the Gate of Gods. Then let's pass this floor. Lu Ming was full of pride, revealing a confident expression. Swoosh! He leaped into the air and charged toward the ghostly creatures on this floor. When he arrived at the area of Ghost Kings, a large army of ghosts rushed toward Lu Ming. Ghost Chi covered the sky and earth, pressing toward Lu Ming. At least half of this army of Ghost Kings were experts in the first heaven of the King God realm. Among them, there were even existences who had awakened their origin divine power. Lu Ming even saw the golden-haired Zombie King and the headless Swordsman King from the previous floors. These existences were only generals here, not kings. Therefore, Lu Ming couldn't pass this floor. The strength of this army of ghosts was shocking. Divine Dragon Aspect Kill! Lu Ming let out a long howl and punched out with both fists. In the sky, numerous 9-clawed divine dragons appeared. There was a total of 36 9-clawed divine dragons, and they charged toward the ghost army. Given Lu Ming's half-step divine king cultivation, the prowess of the divine dragon aspect technique was naturally different from before. It was much stronger. Boom! Boom! 36 9-clawed dragons rushed forward, entangling a large number of ghosts. Lu Ming moved and charged toward the depths of the army of ghosts. Before he killed his way here, Lu Ming had already triggered the quintuple combat ability. His combat ability was at its peak. Boom! With a sweep of his spear, he hit a golden-haired Zombie King. The Zombie King with golden hair was the king of the first few floors. He had the first sky of King God Realm cultivation base and had awakened the God Original twice. He was as strong as Yuan Yu that year. However, when the spear swept past, the Zombie King was unable to block it at all. Its body was blasted away like a cannonball. After killing hundreds of ghosts, its own body also exploded. One move, instant kill. Roar! At this moment, a heaven-shaking roar came from the depths of the army, and a huge monster appeared. At this moment, a bone dragon that was 10,000 meters long appeared. It was the Ghost King of this level. His cultivation base was in the second King God realm, and his God force factor had awakened twice. The skeletal dragon twisted its body and charged towards Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was not afraid of the bone dragon silk. His palm glowed, and an ancient stone spear appeared. It was Lu Ming's other origin secret technique, the Tyrant God Spear. Moon slaying! Lu Ming shouted, and the tyrant god's spear slashed towards the bone dragon. The bone dragon roared, and a sharp claw reached out, grabbing at Lu Ming. Boom! The spear light and the dragon's claw collided. The dragon's claw was covered with the awakened god original god force factor, but it still could not block the spear light's attack. At the moment of impact, the dragon's claw shook violently and then exploded, turning into bone fragments that scattered in all directions. One of the bone dragon's huge dragon claws exploded. The tyrant god spear's power was even more terrifying than a divine weapon. It was easy to use, and it increased the power of Lu Ming's divine skill by 20%. Swoosh! Lu Ming swung his hand, and the tyrant god's spear flew across the void, aiming at the bone dragon's head. The bone dragon roared, desperately trying to block. However, Lu Ming, who used the combination of the tyrant god's spear and divine skill, his strength was simply explosive and had completely surpassed the bone dragon. Although the bone dragon tried its best to block, it could only take a beating. Under Lu Ming's attack, the bone dragon retreated again and again, and its body was constantly hit by Lu Ming. Every time it was hit, a large piece of the bones on the bone dragon's body would explode. After more than 10 moves, Lu Ming finally struck the bone dragon's head with his spear. The bone dragon's head exploded, and it was completely killed by Lu Ming. After the bone dragon was killed, the other ghosts ran away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. 15th floor passed. On this floor, Lu Ming found 2 more crystals that contained extreme yin qi. Then, a pitch-black vortex appeared in the air. This was the vortex that led to the 16th floor. The 18 levels of hell. Every 3 levels of difficulty will increase greatly. I wonder how difficult the 16th floor will be. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming took a step forward, rushed through the door, and entered the 16th floor. Outside the 18 levels of hell, the 16th floor of the stone pagoda lit up. All the experts of the Nether Ape fighting tribe opened their eyes wide, their eyes filled with shock. He has passed the 15th floor. The battle ancestor has passed the 15th floor. An 8th level heavenly god has passed the 15th floor. This is unbelievable, a miracle. A peerless genius, a peerless genius. Under the leadership of the battle ancestor, the Nether Ape fighting tribe will definitely rise. In the future, our name will spread throughout the Taishu dynasty. No, it will spread throughout the primitive universe. Some of the Nether Ape fighting tribe members couldn't help but shout, their faces flushed with excitement. They were all old monsters who had lived for countless years, and they had seen all kinds of things. However, they had never heard of someone as talented as Lu Ming. It was no wonder that they were so excited. Even Yuan Huan and Yuan Tsung's breaths became heavy. The 16th floor, what a terrifying ghost! Lu Ming was shocked. As soon as he arrived at the 16th floor, he was besieged by many ghosts. These ghosts were all in the first level of the King God realm. A large number of ghosts in the first level of the King God realm besieged Lu Ming. Fortunately, Lu Ming's cultivation had improved greatly over the years, so he was able to fend off these ghosts' attacks. If Lu Ming had just entered the 18 levels of hell, he wouldn't have been able to fend off these ghosts and would have been killed by them. He killed his way out of the encirclement and found a stone pillar to rest. After resting, he charged out again. In this way, Lu Ming spent a few years and finally found the Ghost King. After finding the Ghost King, Lu Ming turned around and left without hesitation. The main reason was that the Ghost King and his subordinates were too terrifying. Under the Ghost King's lead, thousands of ghosts swarmed toward Lu Ming. Judging from their auras, the Ghost King's cultivation had reached the 3rd level of the King God realm. Moreover, it was the kind of King God realm that had awakened the origin divine power factor twice. With this kind of strength, he could kill the Ghost King of the 15th floor in one move. Moreover, the ghosts under his command were all at the King God realm. There was no lack of existences like the Zombie King with golden fur. Among them, there were a few terrifying generals in the second level of the king god realm that had awakened the origin divine power factor twice. This was equivalent to the ghost king of the 15th floor. Although his subordinates were ghosts, they were already so terrifying. With so many of them rushing toward Lu Ming, it would be strange if he didn't run. Chapter 30-181. The 16th floor's Ghost King and his army were too terrifying. With Lu Ming's current strength, if he was surrounded, he would die. Lu Ming executed the 9 heavens Garuda art and fled like a bolt of lightning. In the process of escaping, Lu Ming took out a jade talisman. He exerted force with his fingers and crushed the jade talisman. A powerful force shrouded Lu Ming. The next moment, Lu Ming disappeared from the 16th level of hell. This jade talisman was given to Lu Ming by Yuan Huan. As long as Lu Ming crushed it, he could be transported out of the 18th floor of hell at any time. Although there were still 50 years before the founding of the Taishu dynasty, Lu Ming didn't want to try anymore. If he wanted to defeat the 16th floor's Ghost King and his army, Lu Ming's combat strength would have to make another major breakthrough. For example, Lu Ming's cultivation had to break through to the God King realm, or his sovereign god force, origin god force, had to awaken a second time, or his other 5 divine grade god force had to awaken their origin god force. Only then would Lu Ming be able to pass the 16th floor. Otherwise, there was no way. However, it was extremely difficult to achieve any of these conditions. Without a great opportunity, it wasn't something that could be achieved in a few decades. For example, breaking through to the God King realm. Breaking through to the God King realm was a huge hurdle. If an ordinary person wanted to break through, not only would they need a large amount of resources, they would also need to accumulate talent and opportunity. Not to mention that Lu Ming controlled 10 types of God Force. It would be even more difficult for him to break through. Moreover, the Yin building blocks and other treasures he had obtained before were almost used up. He only had 2 pieces of Yin crystals left, which weren't enough to support his breakthrough. Since he couldn't pass the 16th floor in a few decades, Lu Ming might as well leave. After all, he had cultivated here for many years. He was afraid that during the autumn moon, Blue Merchant and the others would be worried. A surge of energy carried Lu Ming, and in the next moment, Lu Ming found himself outside the 18th floor of hell. Looking around, he saw the Nether Ape Battle tribe members staring at Lu Ming. "Greetings, Battle Ancestor." Then, all of the Dark Ape Battle tribe members bowed respectfully to Lu Ming, including Grand Elder Yuan Kong. "Everyone, there's no need for such formalities." Lu Ming hurriedly waved his hand. These netherworld apes were all elites. Although he had become the new battle progenitor, he couldn't order them around. Who knew if they would ignore him? If you want others to be dead set on you, you have to have both ability and integrity. "Battle Ancestor, I was blind before. Please punish me." At this moment, the first elder walked over and bowed deeply towards Lu Ming. Now he was completely convinced by Lu Ming. He could already tell that Lu Ming's cultivation had already reached half-step Divine King. When Lu Ming entered the 18th floor of hell, he was only an 8th level heavenly god. He had never heard of anyone who could break through 2 levels in just 100 years in the 18th floor of hell. That speed of improvement was too fast. Moreover, Lu Ming had passed the 15th floor and entered the 16th. His talent was even higher than Jingyu's. At this moment, he wholeheartedly supported Lu Ming as the new battle ancestor. He would fight anyone who disagreed. "You're too serious, Grand Elder. You're just thinking for the Nether Ape Battle tribe. How can you punish me?" Lu Ming quickly helped Yuan Tsung up. Everyone in the Nether Ape Battle tribe smiled. The new battle ancestor was not only talented, but also amiable and generous. This was undoubtedly the best for them. "Battle Ancestor, now that you've passed the test, let's return to the tribe and hold the ceremony so that all of the Nether Ape Battle tribe members can recognize you. Yuan Huan walked over and said. Lu Ming nodded. After that, they returned to the Nether Ape Battle tribe. Yuan Huan announced that the Battle Ancestor Succession Ceremony would be held. Countless Nether Apes gathered. On this day, Lu Ming officially became the Battle Ancestor of the Nether Ape Battle tribe. In a large hall, Patriarch, how is the strength of the Nether Ape Battle tribe now? How many experts are there in each level? Lu Ming asked. Battle Ancestor, there are detailed records in this bone talisman. Please take a look. Yuan Huan took out a bone talisman and handed it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took the bone talisman and used his spiritual consciousness to check it. The bone talisman contained the names of the Nether Ape Battle tribe members, followed by their corresponding cultivation level. Lu Ming's eyes widened and he was tongue-tied. He was truly shocked. The number of Nether Ape Battle tribe members was far beyond his imagination. The most apex were naturally divine, Lord Realm powerhouses. There were more than 100 divine lords in the Nether Ape Battle tribe. Yes, there were more than 100 divine lords. This was the divine lords. Every one of them was an existence that could explode stars. There were more than 100 divine lords in the Nether Ape Battle tribe. Did all the divine lords in the 9 extinction Heavenly King Palace add up to 100? Not necessarily. In other words, if the Nether Ape Battle tribe went all out, their strength might not be weaker than the 9 extinction Heavenly King Palace. This was the divine lords. As for the number of divine kings, it was uncountable. And now, this force was under Lu Ming's control. Lu Ming's heart suddenly thumped. Battle tribe, this is all the strength of the Nether Ape Battle tribe. We are at your disposal at any time, Yuan Huan said. Calm down, calm down. Lu Ming took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. Although the Nether Ape Battle tribe was strong, compared to the Taishu dynasty, it was probably much weaker. Therefore, even if he brought the Nether Ape Battle tribe members to the Taishu Saint capital to investigate Jingyu's death, it would not work. If others knew about the relationship between the Nether Ape Battle tribe and Jingyu, it would probably be quickly destroyed. One had to know that the Nether Ape Battle tribe was not the only force under Jingyu's control. There were other powerful forces, but they were all destroyed in the end. Therefore, now was not the time to mobilize the Nether Ape Battle tribe. Clan leader, Senior Jingyu was framed and killed. I will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. When the time comes, I will definitely need the strength of the Nether Ape Battle tribe. However, now is not the time. When I need your help, I will come to you, Lu Ming said. Then Lu Ming continued, Now, I am going to the Taishu Saint capital to do something important. Time is running out. I have to leave the ghost region first. Clan leader, where is the other exit? Battle Ancestor, take this bone talisman. When you come to the ghost region in the future, you can send me a message. I will bring you to the other exit, Yuan Huan said. Then Lu Ming followed Yuan Huan to a secret place. There was a large altar here. Yuan Huan told him that this was the other exit of the ghost region. Normally, the Nether Ape Battle tribe would seal this place to prevent outsiders from sensing it. Open. Yuan Huan let out a low growl. Rays of divine light emanated from his hands and entered the altar. The altar trembled slightly and radiance filled the air. Then a pitch-black vortex appeared. Chapter 3182. The exit of the ghost realm was opened. Farewell, clan leader. Lu Ming cupped his fists at Yuan Huan and stepped into the whirlpool. The light rays fell into darkness. However, not long after, the light rays lit up again, and Lu Ming realized that he had appeared in a starry sky. From afar, there was a planet floating in front of him. That planet was the planet where they had entered the ghost realm. Obviously, The other entrance of the ghost realm was not on that planet, but in the starry sky of the universe. Let's go back to the starry camp. Lu Ming's heart moved as he unleashed the 9 heavens Kuin Peng technique. Like a Kuin Peng flying in the starry sky, he flew towards the 9 heavens Heavenly King Mansion at an astonishing speed. The 9 Heavenly King Mansion was heavily guarded. However, when Lu Ming revealed his identity as a disciple of the Starry Camp, he easily entered the 9 Heavenly King Mansion and returned to the Starry Camp. After returning to the Starry Camp, Lu Ming first met Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon was naturally happy to see Lu Ming return. After all, Lu Ming had disappeared for more than 100 years, and she was very worried about him. Although it was normal to cultivate for tens of thousands of years at their level, she could not help but be worried. After meeting Autumn Moon, Lu Ming found Wu Ming and Wu Yu to ask about Blue Maple. Wu Ming and Wu Yu told him that Blue Maple had left the 9 Heavenly King Mansion more than 100 years ago and returned to the Taishu, holy capital. Lu Ming nodded and headed towards Blue Merchant's residence. Blue Merchant was also very excited when he saw Lu Ming. After all, when Blue Maple came out of the ghost realm and the 9 Heavenly King Mansion sealed the entrance, Blue Merchant was very worried. He was afraid that something had happened to Lu Ming. Now that he saw Lu Ming, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Ming, how is the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe? Did they submit to you? Blue Merchant asked. Success. Lu Ming nodded. Blue Merchant let out a long sigh and revealed a joyful expression. As Jingyu's teacher, he knew very well how powerful the Dark Ape Battle Clan was. Now that Lu Ming had subdued the Dark Ape Battle Clan, he finally had some foundation to establish himself. Immediately, Lu Ming told Blue Merchant about the general situation of the demon ghost. You have broken through to the half-step Divine King realm. Blue Merchant's eyes shone brightly as he stared at Lu Ming, revealing a trace of pleasant surprise. His soul force was extremely powerful, and he immediately sensed Lu Ming's cultivation. Yes. Lu Ming nodded. Good. Come, Lu Ming. Attack me with all your strength. Let me see how strong you are now. Blue Merchant said. Full power. Lu Ming said. That's right, go all out. Don't worry, with your strength you can't hurt me. Blue Merchant smiled faintly. Lu Ming naturally knew that he could not hurt Blue Merchant at all. Blue Merchant was someone who could defeat a peak Divine King. All right. Lu Ming nodded and then activated the battle symbol formula to increase his combat strength by 5 times. After so many years of cultivation, Lu Ming's chances of activating the battle symbol formula had increased from 1 in 50 to 1 in 30. After activating it a few times, Lu Ming successfully activated the battle symbol formula to increase his combat strength by 5 times. Divine Dragon Image. Lu Ming shouted as he waved his fists. 9-clawed dragon continued to condense in the sky. In the end, 36 9-clawed dragons were formed and pounced towards Blue Merchant. 36 dragons, not bad. Blue Merchant nodded. He still had his hands behind his back. The space between his eyebrows glowed, and a powerful soul power rushed out like waves towards the 36 9-clawed dragons. Struck by this force, the 36 9-clawed divine dragons instantly collapsed, turning into energy and disappearing. It did not affect Lanshang at all. However, at the same time that he used the divine dragon image formula, Lu Ming went all out and transformed into a green-armored ancient god. Then, the gate of domination appeared above his head. Lu Ming stretched out his hand, grabbed the gate of domination, and blasted it towards Blue Merchant. Blue Merchant's expression did not change. He still had his hands behind his back. When the gate of domination was about to hit his head, he stretched out a palm and pushed it forward. Boom! The gate of domination shook violently. Lu Ming's body also shook, and then he retreated with the gate of domination. As for Blue Merchant, he was completely fine. "Is that all you've got?" Blue Merchant said lightly. Again. Lu Ming shouted. All the divine power in his body was mobilized and surged wildly. Buzz! The gate of domination trembled slightly, then pressed down on Lanshang. At the same time, Lu Ming's hand glowed and an ancient stone spear appeared. It was the Overlord God Spear. Supernova! Lu Ming shouted and stabbed out with the spear. The combination of the Origin secret technique, the Overlord God Spear, and the supernova turned into a terrifying energy that rushed towards Blue Merchant. This was Lu Ming's strongest attack so far. The battle formula increased his combat strength by 5 times, and the green-armored ancient god. 2 Origin secret techniques. Lu Ming's divine power was instantly sucked dry. This is the 2nd Origin secret technique. Blue Merchant's eyes lit up and then he struck out with his palm. Rumble! Blue Merchant struck out with his palm, and heaven and earth shook violently. The terrifying palm energy rushed towards Lu Ming like an avalanche. The Gate of Domination was the first to bear the brunt of the impact. After shaking a few times, it quickly shrank and disappeared. Then, Lu Ming's attack was completely defeated. The powerful impact hit Lu Ming. Chapter 3183. Therefore, if you want to enter the top 10 by the time the Great Void Imperial Family Holy Court opens, there are 2 areas that you must make a major breakthrough in. That is your cultivation and origin source divine force factor. You must make a breakthrough in one of these 2 areas for you to have the confidence. For example, your cultivation must reach the Divine King realm or awaken your origin source divine force factor for the other divine grey divine forces, or the 2nd awakening of your sovereign divine force. Blue Merchant said. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. The Great Void Imperial Family Holy Court was not far away. How could he make a breakthrough in these areas in such a short time? Any breakthrough would require a lot of time. It's less than 60 years before the Great Void Imperial Family Holy Court opens. To be precise, it's 56 years. Under normal circumstances, it's impossible to make a breakthrough in any aspect in 56 years. However, there are some supreme treasures that might allow you to make a breakthrough in a short time. Blue Merchant said, I'm afraid the price of such treasures is ridiculously high. It's not easy to get them. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Just because the 9 extinction Heavenly King residents doesn't mean that the Great Void Imperial Family doesn't have them. In the Great Void Holy Capital, some of the major forces and aristocratic families have some treasures that can suppress their foundations. The effects are very heaven-defying, and some of them can help you break through. Therefore, I plan to bring you to the Great Void Holy Capital first. After all, the Great Void Imperial Family Holy Court is about to start. Blue Merchant said. Going to the Great Void Imperial Family Holy Court? Lu Ming's eyes lit up with anticipation. If the 9 extinction Heavenly King residence was so magnificent, how magnificent would the Great Void Imperial Family Holy Court be? Anyway, he would have to go to the Great Void Imperial Family Holy Court sooner or later. When I was in the Great Void Imperial Family Holy Court, I was doing pretty well. I have some friends who have gone through life and death situations with me. I'll ask them to let you use those treasures to make a breakthrough in your cultivation. Get ready. We'll set off in 2 days. Blue Merchant said. All right. By the way, Lan Shu, can I bring the others with me? Lu Ming asked. You want to bring the girl with you, right? Of course. Blue Merchant said. Thank you, Lan Shu. Lu Ming said. He was indeed going to bring Autumn Moon along. With Autumn Moon's talent, it shouldn't be difficult for her to enter the Great Void Imperial Academy. Only by cultivating in the Great Void Imperial Sacred Academy would he be able to improve faster by Autumn Moon. After returning to his residence, He told Chiu Autumn Moon about going to the Great Void Holy Capital. For the next 2 days, they didn't cultivate. Instead, they quietly enjoyed life. 2 days later, Lu Ming brought Autumn Moon to Blue Merchant's place. At the entrance of the Blue Merchant's courtyard, Lu Ming saw an ordinary-looking young woman. "Who is this?" Lu Ming was surprised. However, when Lu Ming saw the expression of the ordinary-looking woman, Lu Ming knew who she was. Humph! When the ordinary-looking woman saw Lu Ming, she harumphed coldly, especially when she glanced at Autumn Moon. Her gaze became even colder. Lan Ling. Needless to say, Lu Ming also knew that this woman was Lan Ling obviously. Lan Ling had disguised herself. Lu Ming knew that Lan Ling would definitely follow Blue Merchant to the Great Void Holy Capital. However, the son of the Grand Tutor, Wu Fan, had his eyes on Lan Ling. If Lan Ling went to the Great Void Holy Capital with her real appearance, she would definitely encounter unnecessary trouble. Blue Merchant walked out of the courtyard and said, "Everyone is here. Let's go." The 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence was very far away from the Great Void Holy Capital. They were separated by many galaxies. Even if they took the interstellar transmission formation, it still took them a few years to reach the Great Void Holy Capital. Is that the Great Void Holy Capital? Standing in the starry sky of the universe and looking ahead, Lu Ming and Chiu Yu were both dumbfounded. Even though they were mentally prepared, the Great Void Holy Capital was still beyond Lu Ming's imagination. In front of them, there was a huge city floating in the universe. Yes, it was a huge city. It was a pitch-black ancient city. It was so huge that it was even bigger than a planet of life. A city that was bigger than a planet of life. What kind of concept was that? Around this huge city, there were many planets of life that revolved around the huge city. Lu Ming counted. There were a total of 36 planets. 36 planets were revolving around a huge city. This scene was simply too shocking. Humph, you're really inexperienced. Seeing Lu Ming and Autumn Moon's dumbfounded expressions, Lan Ling took the opportunity to harumph. Of course, Lu Ming ignored Lan Ling's words. He was now completely immune to Lan Ling. Let's go. Lan Shang looked at the great illusionary Saint Capital with a complicated expression on his face, after which he flew towards the huge city. Lu Ming and the rest followed behind. The closer they got to the huge city, the more they felt how majestic it was. In each direction of the huge city, there were 8 city gates. On top of the city walls, there were all kinds of weapons that were extremely terrifying. Needless to say, there were definitely powerful people on top of the city walls. If they wanted to enter the Great Void Holy Capital, they could only enter through those city gates. Slowly, they flew towards one of the city gates. What a huge city gate! Lu Ming exclaimed. Each city gate was extremely huge. It was more than 1,000,000 miles long and wide. Even huge races could easily pass through the city gates. From afar, they could see countless living beings flying towards the city gates. Lu Ming and the rest lined up and followed the crowd as they flew towards the city gates. To enter the Great Void Holy Capital, they had to register their information and leave behind their life aura. This was very similar to entering the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. Soon, it was Lu Ming and the rest's turn. Isn't that Blue Merchant? It's really Blue Merchant. He's back. Why is he back? Should we report this to the higher-ups? No need. His star core has been destroyed. He's just a useless person. There's no need to report this. The soldiers guarding the city clearly recognized Lan Shang and whispered to each other. Lan Ling was unhappy and wanted to throw a tantrum. However, she was stopped by Blue Merchant. Register our information. Blue Merchant said plainly. Ever since Jingyu died and his star core was destroyed, he had heard such mockery many times. The guards laughed contemptuously, and then registered Lan Shang and the others. After registering, they passed through the city gates and entered the great void holy capital. Walking through the city gates, they saw countless buildings. There were all kinds of tall and ancient buildings. There was no end in sight. The wide streets were at least a few thousand miles wide. A large number of living beings walked on the streets. It was extremely bustling. Many of the living beings exuded terrifying auras. Lu Ming was shocked when he sensed it. God kings on the streets. There were God kings everywhere. The number of God kings was more than those below the God king level. How many God kings were there in the great void holy capital? Now that the great void imperial family's sacred courtyard is getting closer, experts from all over the world are gathering here. That's why there are so many God kings on the streets. Otherwise, even in the great void holy capital, there wouldn't be so many God kings. Blue Merchant explained. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Tingzhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 advertisements, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 30-184. Lu Ming nodded his head. This was normal. However, even so, it was terrifying enough. A God King expert was considered a top expert in Qin Tian Starfield. But here they were nothing. There were too many of them, and there were too many of them. Lu Ming felt a sense of urgency. With his current strength, he was definitely an overlord in Qin Tian Starfield. Lu Ming was confident that he could kill a God King Fourth Heaven in Qin Tian Starfield. However, he was nothing in Great Void Sage Capital. There were too many people who could kill him. One could imagine how powerful the major forces in Great Void Sage Capital were. It would be difficult to overturn the case for Jingyu. Lu Ming had a long way to go. They followed Blue Merchant and walked around. Soon, they arrived at a courtyard. This courtyard was relatively secluded, but it was also rather quiet. I bought this when I was in Great Void Sage Capital. As it is secluded and not big, it was not taken away. Let's stay here for the time being, Blue Merchant said. He then opened the door and walked in. The courtyard was not big, but it was well equipped. There were more than 10 rooms, which was enough for them to use. Everyone found their rooms and stayed in them. The next day, Lu Ming, I will bring you to an old friend of mine today, Blue Merchant said. All right. Lu Ming nodded his head. Lu Ming, in the Taishu's sacred capital, you must not let others know that you are Jingyu's successor. At the very least, before you are powerful enough, you must not let others know about it. Otherwise, you will be killed. Blue Merchant warned. I understand. Lu Ming nodded his head. Also, Wu Fan, the son of the imperial tutor, has his eyes on Linger. Therefore, I cannot treat you as my son-in-law. Otherwise, Wu Fan will find trouble with you. Blue Merchant frowned and mumbled. Lu Ming couldn't wait for Blue Merchant to not treat him as a son-in-law. How about this? In the future, in front of outsiders, you can treat me as your disciple. In any case, I'm a cripple. Others shouldn't care too much if I accept a disciple, Blue Merchant said. The two of them walked out of the courtyard and headed north, chatting as they walked. My old friend is from a great family in Taishu Saint Capital, the Guanggu clan. They are not like the Jin clan and the Qin clan of the 9 extinction Heavenly King Mansion. They are much stronger than them. The patriarch of the Guanggu clan and I went through life and death together when we were young. There's a kind of divine pill in the Guanggu clan called the Nirvana pill. It's extremely effective. If a half-step divine king realm cultivator takes it, he or she will have a 50 to 60% chance of breaking through to the divine king realm. Even if a divine king cultivator takes it, he or she will have a great chance of breaking through to the divine king realm without any side effects, Blue Merchant said. It can allow a half-step divine king to have a 50 to 60% chance of breaking through to the divine king realm. This effect is truly heaven-defying, Lu Ming was taken aback. He was very shocked. It was extremely difficult to break through to the Divine King realm. Countless experts were stuck in the half-step Divine King realm. However, the Nirvana pill could allow a person to have a 50 to 60% chance of breaking through. This was already extremely heaven-defying. Moreover, if a Divine King cultivator took it, he or she would have a great chance of breaking through to the next level. Most importantly, there were no side effects. Lu Ming knew of a kind of divine pill called the King Breakthrough Pill. It could also allow a Divine King to break through to the next level. Back then, the Jin clan and the Qin clan had given the King Breakthrough Pill to the invincible Kenzo sect master of the Qin Tian Starfield, allowing them to break through to the 4th layer of the Divine King realm. However, the King Breakthrough Pill had a great side effect. Once it was used, it would exhaust one's potential and it would be difficult to break through in the future. However, the Nirvana pill did not have any side effects. Its value was many times higher than the King Breakthrough Pill. However, the Nirvana pill can only be used once. It's only effective for the first time. The second time, there's almost no effect. You haven't used it before. With your talent, you should have a great chance of breaking through to the Divine King realm. Blue Merchant explained. Lu Ming sighed. The Great Void Sage Capital was indeed the Great Void Sage Capital. It even had such a divine pill. The two of them chatted as they walked. Along the way, Blue Merchant told Lu Ming many things about the Great Void Sage Capital so that Lu Ming could better adapt to life in the Great Void Sage Capital. Not long after, they arrived at a teleportation zone. They stepped onto a teleportation formation. Yes, it was a teleportation formation. The Great Void Sage Capital was too big. It was bigger than a life planet. Its territory was vast, and there were countless living beings living there. If everyone flew in the air, it would be a little messy. Therefore, many short-distance teleportation formations were set up in the Great Void Sage Capital. It could be used to teleport people back and forth within the Great Void Sage Capital. This way, it would be very convenient for one to go to a certain place. Not long after, Lu Ming and the rest arrived at the northern region. They came before a huge mansion. The mansion was huge, and it occupied a vast area. This was the mansion of the Guangu clan. Blue Merchant told them the reason for their visit. Naturally, someone went to inform them. Ha ha ha, Brother Lon, long time no see. What brings you here? Not long after, a middle-aged man walked out and laughed heartily. This man was the head of the Guangu clan, Guangu Jin. Brother Guangu, how have you been? Blue Merchant clasped his fists. Haha, I'm still the same. Come, let's go in and have a drink. Guangu Jin said. In a courtyard, Lu Ming, Blue Merchant, Guangu Jin, and a young man sat at a table. They chatted as they drank. After chatting, they found out that the young man was Guangu Jin's son, Guangulong. This is... Guangu Jin looked at Lu Ming curiously. Brother Guangu, this is my new disciple. His name is Lu Ming. Blue Merchant introduced. Lu Ming greets Senior Guangu. Lu Ming clasped his fists and bowed. Uncle Lan Shu, is this your new disciple? Guangulong sized Lu Ming up curiously. There was a hint of contempt in his eyes as he said, Uncle Lan, your cultivation was crippled back then. I didn't expect your judgment to deteriorate. You're not good at teaching disciples anymore. You're not even a divine king. The disdain in his words was very obvious. At this point, Guangulong's tone changed again. He said, Uncle Lan, you haven't come to look for my father for so many years. Could it be that you have something to ask my father for help this time? Blue Merchant's hand that was holding the cup stiffened. It would be strange if he felt good to be looked down upon by a junior. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. This Guangulong was asking for a beating. He had been mocking him since the beginning. Lang, what nonsense are you talking about? How can you talk to your Uncle Lan Shu like that? Guan Gujian reprimanded. However, his voice wasn't loud. Anyone could tell that Guan Gujian wasn't angry at all. He was just pretending to reprimand. Father, I'm wrong. Guan Gulong pretended to admit his mistake, but the contempt on his face was even thicker. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Tingzhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 advertisements, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 3185. Brother Lon, please don't mind the outspoken young man. Guan Gujian looked at Blue Merchant and said with a smile. When he said that Guan Gulong was frank and outspoken, it was obvious that he was only saying that Guan Gulong was frank and did not say that he was wrong. Blue Merchant smiled bitterly and said, Brother Guan Gujian, your nephew is right. I am here today to ask for a favor. Brother Lon, please speak your mind. Guan Gujian said without a change in expression. Brother Guan Gujian, I would like to borrow a nirvana pill. Lan Shang went straight to the point and stated the purpose of his visit. What? You want to borrow a nirvana pill? Before Guan Gujian could say anything, Guan Gulong shouted exaggeratedly. You came to my father with bad intentions. You want to borrow a nirvana pill. Do you know how much it costs to refine a nirvana pill? All kinds of rare divine herbs and 9 alchemists. It takes 99,000 years to refine one. Can you afford to borrow such a precious nirvana pill? You want to borrow the nirvana pill for this kid, right? Forgive me for being blunt, but this kid is still a half-step God King. Even if he breaks through, he is still a piece of trash. He won't be chosen by the Great Void Imperial Academy. You better give up. Guan Gujian shouted louder and louder. In the end, his face was full of disdain. Lu Ming and Blue Merchant frowned. Lang, or that's enough. Cut it out. Guan Gujian scolded again. Guan Gulong smiled coldly and didn't say anything. Brother Lon, my son is outspoken, but he is right about one thing. It is not easy to refine a nirvana pill. Our Guan Gujian clan doesn't have many of them. Plus, we used almost all of them to prepare for the Great Void Imperial Academy. We really don't have any left. Guan Gujian smiled bitterly. You don't have any left? Blue Merchant's frown deepened. That's right. I don't have any left. How about this? If Brother Lon is really in trouble, just ask for a few tens of thousands of high-grade divine crystals. I can still afford it. Guan Gujian smiled faintly. Brother Guan Gujian. Blue Merchant still wanted to say something. Teacher, let's go. At this moment, Lu Ming stood up and turned around to leave. The other party clearly didn't want to give them the heavenly nirvana pills, and he even said several tens of thousands of high-grade divine crystals. Was he trying to dismiss beggars? Rather than continue to be humiliated by the other party, it was better to just leave. Blue Merchant sighed in his heart. He cupped his fists at Guan Gujian and left. Ha! You don't even want several tens of thousands of high-grade divine crystals? You're just a piece of trash. Yet you still have some pride. There's also that Blue Merchant, a person whose star core has been destroyed. Does he still think that he's the Blue Merchant from back then? You want the heavenly nirvana pill the moment you open your mouth. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? Guan Gulong sneered. Guan Gujian smiled and didn't reprimand Guan Gujian. Instead, he said, Lang, don't worry about these trivial matters. Your goal now is to cultivate well and try to enter the Taishu Imperial Academy. Do you understand? Father, don't worry. I am 100% confident that I'll be able to enter the Great Void Imperial Academy. Guan Gulong's face was filled with confidence. Lu Ming and Blue Merchant walked side by side as they returned to their residence. Sigh, this world is just so realistic. Blue Merchant sighed on the way back. Back then, when his cultivation wasn't destroyed and he was at his peak, many people tried to curry favor with him. His relationship with Guan Gujian was also very good, but now he was only asking for a heavenly nirvana pill, yet he was mocked and ridiculed by the other party. Lan Shu, don't worry about it. After all, there's still more than 50 years. I might be able to break through to the Divine King realm. Lu Ming comforted. It's fine. After so many years, I'm already used to it. Moreover, I have more than one friend in the holy capital, Blue Merchant said with a smile. Not long after, they returned to their residence. The next day, Blue Merchant went out again. It was obvious that he was going to ask for help from his other friends. However, this time, he didn't bring Lu Ming with him. Not long after, Blue Merchant returned with a gloomy face. Needless to say, he didn't succeed again. For the next 10 days, Blue Merchant would go out every day. However, every time he went out with hope, he would return with disappointment. Time passed quickly. They had been in the Taishu, holy capital, for a month. During this month, Lu Ming cultivated peacefully. The cultivation environment in the Taishu, holy capital, was indeed extraordinary. Their residence was already considered remote, but the cultivation effect was no worse than the starry camp. On this day, Blue Merchant looked for Lu Ming with a joyful face. Lu Ming, your chance is here, Blue Merchant said happily. Lan Shu, what's so good that you're so happy? Lu Ming said with a smile. Lu Ming, you have a chance to cultivate in the heavenly jade annulus of the Bone Sword Tribe, Blue Merchant said. The heavenly jade annulus of the Bone Sword Tribe? Lu Ming was puzzled. That's right. The celestial jade annulus of the Bone Sword Tribe is an extremely famous treasure, even in the great illusionary divine realm. It's extremely helpful in comprehending the origin divine power factors of various types of divine powers. It can even help one awaken their origin secret techniques. Not long ago, the Bone Sword Tribe released news that they're gathering people below the 3rd level of the King God realm to help them with something. As long as you complete it, you can cultivate under the heavenly jade annulus. Blue Merchant explained. What do you want me to do? Lu Ming asked. At the same time, he was looking forward to it. Lu Ming was very interested in something that could greatly help in cultivating the origin of divine powers. He now had 5 grade divine powers and had awakened 99% of them. If he cultivated step by step, it would take a long time for him to break through. However, if he was lucky, he might be able to break through in a short period of time. Help the Bone Sword Tribe enter a place and retrieve a material called sword bone, Blue Merchant immediately explained in more detail. The Bone Sword Tribe used to be an extremely powerful tribe in the distant past. At their peak, they were even ranked in the prehistoric 10,000 tribes list. They were even stronger than the Taishu dynasty. However, they were now in decline. Compared to their peak, they were much weaker. They had become a tribe of the Taishu dynasty. However, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The Bone Sword Tribe's foundation was still deep. The heavenly jade annulus was one of the Bone Sword Tribe's foundations. Cultivating under the heavenly jade annulus was extremely helpful to one's origin of divine powers. However, the Bone Sword Tribe had a secret realm that contained a precious material called sword bone. It was extremely helpful to the Bone Sword Tribe. However, this secret realm had a great restriction. Those above the 3rd level of the King God realm couldn't enter. Even the Bone Sword Tribe couldn't enter. Therefore, every once in a while, the Bone Sword Tribe would invite people below the 3rd level of the King God realm to enter the secret realm and collect sword bones for them. They would also give out rewards. There were all sorts of rewards, and all of them were precious. However, they had never given out a reward for entering the heavenly jade annulus to cultivate. Therefore, when the news spread this time, it attracted many young geniuses to go. P.S. Readers, I am the shepherd boy Tingzhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, no ads, and many reading modes. Chapter 3186. After hearing Blue Merchant's explanation, Lu Ming understood. It was nothing more than someone helping the Bone Sword tribe obtain a sword bone and then exchanging it for a chance to cultivate under the sagely Heaven Jade Annulus. This time, I plan to let you, Ling, and Miss Autumn Moon go together. This is a good opportunity for all of you. Blue Merchant said, All right. Lu Ming nodded. The next day, Blue Merchant brought Lu Ming, Miss Autumn Moon, and Lan Ling to the Bone Sword tribe. The Bone Sword tribe was a powerful force in the Taishu sacred capital. They had a deep foundation and magnificent buildings. They were far more powerful than the Guangu clan. In front of them, buildings that looked like divine swords stood between heaven and earth. Looking from afar, they could feel waves of shocking sword chi soaring into the sky. Although the Bone Sword tribe was no longer as glorious as it used to be, it was still a force that ordinary forces in the Taishu sacred capital couldn't compare to. It was still one of the top forces in the Taishu sacred capital. Those who are participating in the hunt for the sword bone may enter. Others are not allowed. Lu Ming and the others were stopped in front of a huge gate. We are here to hunt for the sword bone. Lu Ming stepped forward. You may enter. The guard at the gate waved his hand. Lu Ming, Miss Autumn Moon, and Lan Ling walked in. Blue Merchant waited outside. Behind the gate was a long corridor. After passing through the corridor, they arrived at a spacious training ground. Many people had already gathered here. Not all of them were young. There were many old and middle-aged people. The Bone Sword tribe only allowed those below the third layer of the King God realm to enter. There was no age restriction. Lu Ming, Miss Autumn Moon, and Lan Ling waited at the side. Ioyo, isn't this the trash who came to my house to ask for medicine? At this moment, a discordant voice rang out. Then, a few young men walked toward Lu Ming and the others. Guan Gulong. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. One of the young men was Guan Gulong. Brother Guan Gu, is this guy the disciple of that crippled Blue Merchant you mentioned? He's not even a god king, yet he's dreaming of going to the Guan Gu clan to ask for a nirvana pill? Another young man at the side sneered. What did you say? Hearing this, Lan Ling couldn't stand it any longer and shouted angrily. Oh my, did I say something wrong? Guan Gulong curled his lips and glanced at Lan Ling with a mocking face. Then his eyes fell on Lu Ming as he sneered. What? You didn't get the nirvana pill from my Guangu clan, and now you want the Bone Sword tribe to cultivate under the sacred Heaven Jade Annulus. Ha ha ha! With your half-step divine king cultivation base, I guarantee that you won't even know how you died. The commotion here attracted the attention of others. Many people looked over in this direction. A half-step divine king also wants to join in the fun? He must be possessed. Although the Bone Sword tribe said that anyone below the third layer of the King God realm can enter, it's not a joke. It's dangerous. A half-step divine king is just courting death. They're not afraid of death. Why should we care? Many people were discussing. Get lost. Lu Ming's expression was calm as he spat out a word. Guan Galong's face fell and he said, Kid, what did you say? Get lost, as far as you can. Lu Ming waved his hand casually as if he was driving an ant away. Kid, you're courting death. Guan Gulong shouted coldly, his eyes cold. Boom! A powerful aura burst out from his body. It was the aura of a second-layer divine king. At the same time, an ancient aura filled the air. A second-layer divine king who had awakened the origin divine force. Kid, I will destroy your star core today. I will let you live like that crippled Blue Merchant. Guan Gulong shouted coldly. Shut up. Lan Ling was enraged. She unsheathed her sword and turned it into a dazzling sword light, slashing towards Guan Gulong. You're courting death. Guan Gulong took out a saber, which was long and thin, looking extremely ugly. However, its power was extraordinary. When Guan Gulong slashed his saber, the saber light slashed Lan Ling's sword light. Lan Ling's sword light shook violently and then exploded. Lan Ling retreated quickly. Her face turned pale and she almost vomited blood. After years of cultivation, Lan Ling's cultivation base had reached the peak of the first layer Divine King. However, her origin divine force had only awakened once. She was one layer lower than Guan Gulong. She was no match for him. "Kid, it's your turn now." After Guan Gulong defeated Lan Ling, he looked at Lu Ming with cold eyes. "Young master, let me." When Lu Ming was about to attack and beat Guan Gulong up, Autumn Moon stepped forward and landed in front of Lu Ming. "Young master, let me do it this time." Chiu Yu added with a determined look. "All right." Lu Ming nodded. "Young master." Hearing Autumn Moon call Lu Ming, "Young master," Guan Gulong's eyes turned red with envy. "Little girl, what's so good about following this trash? Come and follow me. I promise I will make you happy," Guan Gulong sneered. Swoosh! A snow-white saber light welcomed him. Autumn Moon attacked directly. She waved her hand and a saber light slashed towards Guan Gulong's mouth. Guan Gulong was a little surprised. He hurried to block with his saber. Clang! The two saber lights collided. However, Guan Gulong's body shook violently and he was pushed back. He almost lost his grip on his saber. Second level King God Realm. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile. Autumn Moon's cultivation had reached the second level King God Realm, which was the same as Guan Gulong. However, Autumn Moon had cultivated the universe myriad Tao technique and could control many divine-grade divine powers. At the same time, Autumn Moon also had the god-killing light. Her combat strength was not something that Guan Gulong could compare with. Swoosh! After pushing Guan Gulong back, Autumn Moon followed up and continued to attack with her palm. "Quick, let's attack together and cripple this bitch." Guan Gulong shouted. Boom! Boom! The other young men beside Guan Gulong also made their moves. These young men were also very strong. Apparently, they were the supreme talents of the Taishu sacred capital. There were 4 of them in total, and they attacked Autumn Moon together. God-killing light. Autumn Moon's heart skipped a beat. A god-killing light appeared and turned into a saber, sweeping in all directions. Boom! 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 After 4 consecutive explosions, the 4 young men, including Guan Gulong, were sent flying like cannonballs. They coughed out blood and fell heavily on the ground. So strong! Where did such a beauty come from? Her cultivation is so strong. The Taishu imperial family's sacred courtyard is about to start. Many supreme talents from all over the world are gathering here. Now that the number of supreme talents in the Taishu sacred capital has skyrocketed, there are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers. That's right. I see a few supreme talents from the Heavenly King Mansion here. The others looked at Autumn Moon in shock. Chapter 30-187. Guan Gulong and the other 3 young men were all in the second heaven of the King God realm and had awakened their origin, divine force. In the entire Taishu Holy Court, although this level of strength could not be said to be at the top, it was definitely above average. However, the 4 of them were defeated by Autumn Moon. One could imagine how powerful Autumn Moon was. Bam! Chiu Yu followed up and stepped on Guan Gulong's mouth. Guan Gulong screamed in agony. His mouth was crushed, and blood spurted out of his mouth. A mouthful of teeth flew out. Guan Gulong's face was completely deformed. Humph! Let's see if you dare to scold the young master. Autumn Moon snorted. Then he moved back to Lu Ming's side. Amazing! Lu Ming exclaimed. Ah, Lu Ming, do you only know how to hide behind a woman? Without this woman, I can crush you with one finger. Ah! Guan Gulong struggled to get up and shouted. However, His teeth had not grown back yet, as they had been knocked out. When he spoke, his mouth was full of air. "Oh, is that so? You want to fight with me?" Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer. Just as he was about to step out, he suddenly felt a few cold, murderous, intense, landing on him. Lu Ming frowned and looked in the direction of the murderous, intense. There were a few young men in black robes. Their faces were ghastly pale as they stared at Lu Ming coldly. "It's him. He's from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion." Lu Ming's heart stirred. Lu Ming recognized one of the young men in black robes. Previously, in Xingyue Ancient City, Lu Ming had met 3 supreme talents from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion. 2 of them were killed by Lu Ming. Only one of them survived. The young man in front of him was the one he had met in Xingyue Ancient City. What a coincidence! Lu Ming muttered. If the other party was courting death, he would not mind sending him on his way. "All right, we have enough people. We can set off now." At this moment, a group of people walked over and spoke loudly. Their voices echoed throughout the area. This group of people was from the Bone Sword Tribe. "Is this the Bone Sword Tribe?" Lu Ming looked over and was surprised. The people of the Bone Sword Tribe looked very strange. They looked similar to humans, but they were all as thin as firewood. They looked like skeletons. On their backs there was a sword hilt. Yes, they were hilts that protruded from the Bone Sword Tribe. It was said that the spine of the Bone Sword race would naturally nurture a bone sword. Its power was unmatched and incomparably terrifying. The stronger the cultivation, the stronger the bone sword. This time, the sword bones they collected from the secret realm would be of great help to the cultivation of the Bone Sword race. Otherwise, the Bone Sword race wouldn't have offered such tempting conditions to ask for help. The abysmal, Heavenly King used killing people, heavenly heavens. The Bone Sword, tribes, you people, tribes use. Heaven Esquan Gulong snorted. Killing intent flashed in his eyes as he thought of a sinister plan. "Heavens you, Lu Ming, don't let me find you. Otherwise I'll see how you die." Guan Gulong gritted his teeth. "Everyone, I believe all of you are aware of the specific situation. This time, you will be entering a mystic realm. There are many desolate beasts living inside. These desolate beasts have a type of sword bone on their spines. Your goal is that sword bone. Those sword bones are divided into 3 colors: black, silver, and gold. The different colors will have different qualities. Black is the worst and gold is the best. The sword bones are based on weight. 1 gene of gold sword bones is equivalent to 10 gene of silver sword bones, which is equivalent to 100 gene of black sword bones. Once you obtain 1,000 gene of black sword bones, you can cultivate under the sacred heaven jade annulus for a day. 2,000 gene of black sword bones will be 2 days, and so on. The Bone Sword Tribe members explained. Everyone nodded. They had already known about this before. I'll say it again. The wild beasts in the secret realm are very dangerous and powerful. If you die in battle after entering, the Bone Sword Tribe will not be responsible. If you want to withdraw now, you can do so now. The Bone Sword Tribe members continued. Of course, no one withdrew. When they came, they already knew that killing wild beasts to obtain the sword bones would be dangerous. They were already mentally prepared. All right, since no one wants to withdraw, you can sign your names on the life and death forms and enter the secret realm. The Bone Sword Tribe members said as they took out a huge life and death forms. Every time someone came, there would be many geniuses. Many of them had great backgrounds. Obviously, the Bone Sword Tribe members were afraid that if these geniuses died, the forces behind them would cause trouble for the Bone Sword Tribe. If they signed the life and death forms, it meant that they were willing to join. Everyone lined up and signed the life and death forms one by one. Then they left under the lead of the Bone Sword Tribe members. Not long after, they came to a wide platform. In front of the platform, There was a mirror floating in the air. There was a stone bridge that extended from the platform to the mirror. Is the secret realm inside the mirror? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, the Bone Sword Tribe member said, the secret realm is inside this mirror. This mirror is an ancient treasure passed down by my Bone Sword Tribe. The mirror is a world of its own, but my Bone Sword Tribe members can't enter it. You can go in. You have 1 year, and you can come out at any time within a year. After they finished saying those words, some old men and some middle-aged, burly men began to walk toward the mirror along the stone bridge. Every once in a while, the Bone Sword Tribe would open the mirror world and invite people to hunt for the sword bones inside. For some people, it wasn't their first time here, so they were familiar with the process. The closer they got to the mirror, the smaller their bodies became. When they got close to the mirror, their bodies became the size of a speck of dust and then disappeared into the mirror. The others followed and walked toward the mirror. Let's go too, Lu Ming said as he and Autumn Moon Lanling walked along the stone bridge toward the mirror. Strangely, the closer they got to the mirror, the larger it became. In the end, the mirror seemed to cover the sky. Buzz, buzz. As soon as their bodies touched the mirror, it was as if they had passed through a layer of water. The next moment, Lu Ming and the others appeared on a flight of stairs. Behind them was also a mirror. They had entered the mirror world. Looking up, there was a boundless world in front of him. It stretched as far as the eye could see with no end in sight. Roar! In the distance, there was a roar. It's the sword-bone beasts. Charge! Many people rose into the air and flew into the distance. Let's go. Those who came here through the mirror rose into the air and flew in all directions to hunt the sword-bone beasts. Lu Ming saw Guan Gulong glancing at him coldly before flying into the distance with his companions. Chapter 3188. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then he, Chiu Moon, and Lan Ling chose a direction and flew forward. Soon they were tens of thousands of miles away. Roar! Roar! Boom! Boom! While flying, Lu Ming saw many giant beasts fighting with some experts. These giant beasts were hundreds of meters tall and had wild auras. They were the sword-bone beasts. These sword-bone beasts didn't have high cultivation bases. Along the way, they found that most of the sword-bone beasts were in the king god realm. However, these sword-bone beasts were being watched by others. There were too many people coming in. There were too many wolves and too little meat. The three of them had no choice but to fly further away. After flying for another tens of thousands of miles, look, sword-bone beasts. Chiu Moon pointed ahead and shouted. In front of them was a mountainous area. A few sword-bone beasts were digging into the mountainous area, digging for metal to eat. Quick, let's do it! Lu Ming shouted. They had to hurry up. Otherwise, the sword-bone beasts would be taken away again. The three of them turned into 3 streaks of light and flew toward the sword-bone beasts. Roar! 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 The sword-bone beasts noticed Lu Ming's group. They roared and attacked Lu Ming's group. Pieces of bone flew out from the sword-bone beasts and slashed toward Lu Ming's group like flying swords. However, these sword-bone beasts were only in the king god realm. Not to mention Lu Ming and Chiu Moon. Even Lan Ling could easily kill them. Bang! 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 The attacks of the trio landed on the sword-bone beast. Gravel flew everywhere on the sword-bone beast's body and exploded. 3 sword-bone beasts were killed in an instant. Lu Ming's group landed beside the sword-bone beasts and started to look for the bones. The sword-bone beasts had a strange structure. They weren't made of flesh and blood. They were made of rocks and metal. In the end, the 3 of them found a finger-sized black bone at the spine of the sword-bone beast. The bone was in the shape of a sword, and it emitted an invisible sword pressure. They knew that this was the sword bone that the Bone Sword Tribe needed. Lu Ming took a step forward and took the sword bone from the ground. About 5 kilograms. Lu Ming weighed it in his hand and felt rather speechless. The sword bone of a sword bone beast was only about 5 kilograms. Wouldn't that mean that he would have to kill 100 of these sword bone beasts in exchange for a day of cultivation under the sacred heaven jade annulus? It seemed like it wouldn't be easy to cultivate under the saintly heaven jade wall. After that, Chiu Autumn Moon and Lan Ling took off their sword bones. They were about the same as Lu Ming's, about 5 kilograms. Let's continue hunting. Immediately, the 3 of them soared into the sky and continued their hunt. However, there were too many people in the beginning. Lu Ming's group saw many people fighting over the sword bone beasts. There are many sword bone beasts in this world. There's no need to compete here. Let's go deeper first. Lu Ming suggested. The 3 of them didn't stay any longer. They sped up and flew into the depths of this world. As they went deeper, the crowd began to disperse. Finally, there weren't so many people. There's more ahead. Chiu Autumn Moon cried out in surprise. There were at least 5 or 6 sword bone beasts in front of them. The 3 of them flew forward and killed them. Then they continued to search. With fewer people, it was much easier to find sword bone beasts. Next, they found sword bone beasts from time to time. This kind of sword bone beast would not only be on the ground, but also hide under the ground. Their bodies were like a mixture of rock and metal. For example, when they slept, they would hide underground. Sometimes, when they were defeated, they would hide underground. It was a troublesome thing. They had to sense carefully to find sword bone beasts. In this way, more than a day later, Lu Ming's group had each obtained about 500 gene of black sword bone beasts. It was enough for them to cultivate under the sacred heaven jade wall for about half a day. Roar. The 3 of them were searching for sword bone beasts in a barren mountain. Suddenly a loud roar was heard. The gravel on the ground exploded. A sharp claw scratched toward Lan Ling. It was very powerful. Lan Ling was shocked. She quickly waved her sword to block it. Clang! The sharp claw hit Lan Ling's battle sword. Even with Lan Ling's cultivation, she couldn't block it. Her body shook violently and was blown away. Then, a sword bone beast rushed out from the ground. This sword bone beast was different from the ones they had encountered before. It was much smaller. The sword bone beasts they had encountered before were about 100 meters tall. However, this one was only 20 meters tall. Third King God Realm. A light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He could sense that this sword bone beast had the cultivation base of the 3rd King God Realm. No wonder Lan Ling couldn't block it and was blown away. In the King God Realm, the higher the cultivation base, the stronger the warrior would be. It wasn't something that could be done with some simple secret techniques. Lan Ling's innate talent was high. Her divine techniques and secret techniques were powerful. Moreover, she had awakened the god power of the origin. Even so, she could subdue or kill an ordinary second sky of King God Realm Warrior. Facing a third sky of King God Realm Warrior, she couldn't resist at all. Roar! The sword bone beast roared and wanted to attack Lan Ling again. Lu Ming took a step forward and stood in front of the sword bone beast. He threw a punch. A 9-clawed dragon condensed and dashed toward the sword bone beast. It collided with the sword bone beast's sharp claw. After a dull explosion, the sword bone beast was blown away. Kill! Lu Ming bellowed and punched continuously with both fists. A total of 36 9-clawed divine dragons appeared, charging toward the sword bone beast. After a series of explosions, the sword bone beast was covered in wounds. It lay on the ground, lifeless. With Lu Ming's current strength, it wasn't difficult to kill an ordinary 3rd King God Realm Warrior. He didn't even need to use the original secret technique. Of course, on the day of the Sacred Institute of the Great Void Imperial Family, His opponents wouldn't be ordinary king, god, realm warriors. They would all be top geniuses. Humph, who needs your help? I can handle it myself. Lan Ling flew over and said stubbornly, Wipe the blood off your mouth first. Lu Ming smiled. Lan Ling harumphed and didn't say anything. Lu Ming stepped forward and took the sword-bone beast's bone. Silver. Lu Ming was delighted. The sword-bone beast was silver, and it wasn't light. It weighed around 30 jin. 30 jin of silver sword-bone beast was equal to 300 jin of black sword-bone beast. Lu Ming took it without hesitation. He wouldn't discuss with Lan Ling about sharing it equally. If he wanted to share it equally, he would share it equally with Chiu Moon. After that, they moved more carefully. Since there was a third king god realm sword-bone beast here, there would be a second one, a third one, as expected. The level of the sword-bone beasts increased a lot in this area. Not only the first king god realm, but also the second and third king god realm sword beasts. Their collecting speed had increased a lot. In the blink of an eye, they had been here for a month. On this day, while they were flying to look for sword-bone beasts, they suddenly stopped, because some young men in front of them were blocking their way. Chapter 30, 189. There were 3 young men in black robes with gloomy faces. They were the 3 young men from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion. The young man in black robes in the middle stared at Lu Ming like a venomous snake. He did not hide his murderous intent at all. What do you want? Lan Ling asked coldly. She did not know about the grudge between Lu Ming and the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion. What do we want? Of course, we want to kill you. The voice of the black-robed young man in the middle was extremely cold. As soon as he finished his words, he exuded a shocking aura that shrouded Lu Ming, Chiu Yu, and Lan Ling, third king god realm. Lan Ling exclaimed, and her face turned pale. This young man had the cultivation base of the third king god realm. Moreover, he was a genius who had awakened the god origin. However, this was not beyond Lu Ming's expectations. The young man had seen Chiu Moon defeat Guangulong and the others. He was confident that he would be able to kill them. The other 2 young men from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion were much weaker. The young man they had met in Xingyue Ancient City had broken through to the first king god realm. The other young man was in the second king god realm, the same as Guangulong. They had awakened the divine origin gene. They were probably the top young men in the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion. Young master, leave it to me, Chiu Moon said. She took a step forward and a powerful aura burst out from her body. It was extremely sharp and she broke through the young man's aura. Her eyes revealed an eager expression. Lu Ming smiled. This girl was addicted to fighting. It made sense. Ever since Chiu Yu received the inheritance of Lord of Heaven Shenyan, she had been cultivating in seclusion. She didn't have a good battle experience. After she had tortured Guangulong, she was very excited to fight. Go, Lu Ming said with a smile. You want her to fight alone? Lan Ling was shocked. Of course. It's just a few cats and dogs. How can we fight them together? Lu Ming curled his lips in disdain. The 3 youths from the 9th Abyss Heavenly King's Mansion almost died from anger. The 3 of you die together. The Sky Pride of the 9th Abyss Heavenly King Residence in the middle roared and waved his hand. A few ghostly claws formed and grabbed at Chiu Moon, Lu Ming, and Lan Ling. Your opponent is me. Chiu Yu shouted and waved her hand. 3 saber lights slashed out and split the 3 ghostly claws in half. Then he took a step forward and moved as fast as lightning. With a wave of his hand, saber light flashed and enveloped the 3 youths from the 9th Serenity Heavenly King Mansion. Kill this bitch! The strongest heavens, pride from the 9 Nether Heavenly King Mansion roared. His figure flickered as he dodged Autumn Moon's saber light and rushed towards Autumn Moon. However, Autumn Moon's expression was calm. Her body was enveloped by divine power, and she looked like a peerless goddess. In the blink of an eye, saber lights shot out from Xiao Chen's fingers, enveloping his opponent from all directions, leaving him no room to retreat. Bam! The Sky Pride from the Ninth Abyss, Heavenly King Mansion, trembled and retreated. As for the other two Sky Prides from the Ninth Abyss, Heavenly King Mansion, they had to use all their strength to avoid Autumn Moon's attack. "You're courting death. Ghostly fog kill," the leader of the 9 Nether Heavenly King Manors shouted. His body actually exploded with a bang and turned into a cloud of ghostly mist. At the same time, the other two Sky Prides from the Ninth Abyss, Heavenly King Mansion exploded and turned into ghostly fog. The 3 ghostly fogs expanded rapidly and soon covered a radius of 1,000 miles. Chiu Autumn Moon was also shrouded in the ghostly fog. "Let's retreat." Lu Ming pulled Lan Ling and retreated quickly, leaving the area covered by the ghostly fog. "Why are you so confident in her?" Lan Ling asked. She had seen how Chiu Autumn Moon suppressed Guangulong. She was envious and jealous of her strength. However, the young man from the Ninth Abyss, Heavenly King Mansion, was at the 3rd heaven of the King God realm. He had awakened the Origin Divine Force and was 1 level higher than Guangulong. He could defeat Guangulong in 1 blow. Chiu Autumn Moon was no match for him. What's there to be worried about? Lu Ming smiled faintly. It was indeed difficult for the top Sky Prides to fight someone who was at the King God realm. However, Chiu Autumn Moon could do it. Chiu Yue had cultivated the myriad Tao art of the universe, mastered the god-slaying light, and had even awakened her origin source secret art. With all of these skills combined, even if her opponent was a top-notch prodigy, she wouldn't have any problems defeating him. Boom! Boom! The ghostly fog was filled with explosions, and beams of divine light shot out from time to time. The battle was intense. Lu Ming and Lan Ling stood in the distance and watched. Suddenly, Lu Ming turned his head and looked behind him. He said calmly, "Why are you hiding there so sneakily? Come out." Lan Ling was shocked and quickly looked back. "Ha ha ha! Your spiritual senses are quite sharp." A loud laugh was heard, and 4 young men flew over. Lu Ming's lips curled into a creepy smile. The 4 young men were Guangulong and the other 3. In fact, before Chiu Yu and the people from the 9 Nether Heavenly King Mansion fought, Guangulong and the other 3 had already arrived nearby. They hid in the dark and watched from afar. When Chiu Yu and the people from the 9 Nether Heavenly King Mansion fought, Guangulong got agitated and was discovered by Lu Ming. "Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to offend so many people despite your weak cultivation. You even offended the people from the 9th Abyss, Heavenly King Mansion. Now that the woman is trapped by them, who can help you?" Guangulong laughed heartily without restraint. He was only afraid of Chiu Autumn Moon. Now that Chiu Autumn Moon was blocked by the others, it would be easy for him to kill Lu Ming, a half-step divine king. Swoosh! 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 At this time, there was a sound coming from afar. More people had arrived. There were more than a dozen figures, both young and old. However, they did not get close but stood nearby to watch. Obviously, they were attracted by the battle between Chiu Autumn Moon and the people from the 9th Abyss, Heavenly King Mansion. What a pity, Lu Ming sighed slightly at the sight of so many people. Originally, he wanted to kill Guangulong and the others here. However, with so many people here, it would be difficult for him to kill Guangulong. After all, he had just arrived at the Taishu sacred capital and had no foundation. As for Blue Merchant, he was no longer the Blue Merchant of the past and had lost his influence. As for the Guanggu family, they were a big family in the Taishu sacred capital and were much more powerful than the Jin family and Qin family of the 9th Abyss, Heavenly King Mansion. If he killed Guangulong, no one would be able to help him if Guangujin went crazy and wanted to kill him. Only when he entered the Taishu sacred capital and entered the top 10, he would be able to establish his own mansion and family. By then, he would have no qualms about killing Guan Gulong. However, he had to be cautious now. I can only teach him a lesson. Lu Ming mumbled. Kid, no matter how much you mumble to yourself, it's useless. I will destroy your astral core and let you live like that useless blue merchant. Guan Gulong shouted. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.